daddy, I'm your father figure. I'm your father figure. Clean up your debate room. Clean up your debate room.
You're a tyrannical reigner.
You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now? You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now? What is a tyrannical reigner? 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 You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now? You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now? You may think I'm being mean to you, but I'm just your debate daddy. I'm your father figure. I'm your father figure. Clean up your debate room. Clean up your debate room.
You're a tyrannical reigner.
You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now? You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now? What is a tyrannical reigner? 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 You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now? You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now? You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now? You're so high, you can't even talk. Are you drunk now?
You're a tyrannical reigner.
Logos is the icon of the Father, and man is the icon of God. We are the image of God.
Dire.
All right. What's up, y'all? Tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. I had a good time doing the kind of different vibe top 10 advice for dudes streams. So I wanted to do something else in that vein. And if you remember, Kotel some years ago did a stream where he talked about neoteny. And he did a separate stream where he talked about his advice and his ideas on men's aesthetics and fashion and all that. So tonight we're going to get my version of men's aesthetics and style, drip, as they say, RIZZ, as they say. Now, in the 90s, it was macking. Who had the ability to mack the best? Who was in fact, mack daddy? Possessing the qualities of the skill of macking in high school. In the 2000s, it was spitting game. Who was able to spit the best game? And nowadays, the kids call it RIZZ from charisma. He's got the RIZZ. So somebody, I forget who, was bitching at me on Twitter because how dare I use these stupid terms? And I understand that because I tell Jamie, please don't use the annoying no cap for real bet, whatever the terms mean. I do like the 90s terms, preferably, but I'm speaking to a younger audience. The majority of this channel is like 90% dudes aged 20 to 40. So a lot of those dudes are single. And in the midst of, I don't know if it was the stream that I did in the comments when I premiered it or someone else's stream, somebody had a quote. I don't know, who knows if it's true, but we'll say that it is. It probably is. Something like 50% of dudes, you know, like young guys, high school aged, college age, have never had a girlfriend, asked a girl out on a date. What? I mean, that to me is kind of mind-blowing. And again, it's because we're in this weird dystopian phase where maybe we're starting to get some return to normalcy with the way things are going politically. I don't know. It looks like it's moving in the right direction. But is it enough? Soon enough? Quick enough? Are we too far down? We'll see. Regardless, there's no point in being black pill. Black pill doesn't get you anywhere. And we're going to talk about characteristics that guys ought to have too. Not just in terms of being successful with women or finding, people to date or whatever, but also qualities that you want to have in life in general that will make you a more successful person in general, and not just in regard to, male female issues. And one thing I think that's unique that I get a little bit of an exposure to with the size of the audience that we have, which is it's decent size. Obviously, it's not massive, but it's a experience I think that a lot of people don't get. For example, if you organize your own live events and you go across the country and you meet guys across the U.S. and you do all these live events and stuff, which we've done many. We've met, hundreds, maybe thousands of people live over the last several years doing this. You get a good slice of the audience. You get a good gauge of, who's out there, who follows you, and who comes to see your stuff. And you get a good survey of the types of dudes that you're interacting with. And again, it's obviously largely dudes. But I will say I am happy that a large portion of our audience are Chad guys and bros and military dudes and whatnot that have significant others that are able to talk to women. But I do notice that, especially because of the theology stuff and perhaps the conspiracy groups as well. I'm not knocking conspiracy groups, but look, let's be honest. Conspiracy guys are not usually the best with women. Conspiracy stuff is oftentimes classed classically with nerd stuff. That's that nerd shit, right? Because if you're talking about government conspiracies and this and that, you're probably pretty intelligent, and that's not a bad thing. But as we all know, intelligent people can also be nerdy, and that is oftentimes somewhat of a turnoff, especially the younger that you are. Now, as you get older, I think women do appreciate and they come to value intelligence in a guy maybe more than they do when you're a teenager, because women start looking for the qualities that will make for a good mate. So, depending on how old you are, some of this I think will be maybe more helpful or relevant to other people or to you than other stuff. But my first thought is we're going to talk a little bit about diet, style, aesthetics, etc. What I've noticed, what I've learned before being in a long-term serious relationship with Jamie and then getting married. I had an extensive experience dating. For me, growing up, it was natural to I think I went on my first date in 8th grade. So dating, whether you like it or not, is part of the American culture. I grew up with it. I'm used to it. It is probably better if we were in some sort of prairie muffin type scenario where, Middle Ages or something, where maybe there was a more of an involvement of the parents and this kind of stuff. And I know that there are Orthodox priests that engage in trying to help setting that up. That is probably a healthier situation, but for most people, that's not feasible and it's not their experience. Most of us are still probably going to be interacting with people at school, at college, at work, at friends, social circles, etc., and trying to meet a significant other that way if we are not with somebody. And today is my advice. So if you disagree with something, big deal. You don't have to get your panties in a wad, as they say in the 90s. Like, dude, that was pimp as hell, dude. 90s terminology is probably what we'll stick with tonight, even though I put RIZZ there for the young dudes. But it is amazing to me how incompetent a lot of guys are in this domain, and there's a lot of skills that you can gain that will actually help you, and it helps also to begin in working on yourself. So we're going to start with some of the basics. The first thing I'm going to mention is the diet, and I thought Kotel way back in the day had a really good point on this. I don't agree with Kotel's approach to like extensive style techniques. If you want to go that route, that's cool. That's what you want to do. Go for it. I'm not into wearing suits all the time, and I'm not knocking dudes that do. That's fine. There's different types of guys, and you're going to learn too. There's different types of girls, and girls are going to be attracted at times to different types of dudes, but there are some universal characteristics that we're going to talk about that all guys need to have in order to find and attract a mate on a basic level. So we're going to talk about correcting a lot of those bad behaviors, and we're going to talk about archetypes tonight, because you might think, well, what does that have to do with guys and girls? Well, one of the good ways to try to teach some of these ideas is through pop culture and through movies. Whether you like it or not, they're still pretty recognizable archetypes and images. And I don't need your holiness, super Puritan, rigorous critiques about each character's moral flaw. Okay, we're going to be adults tonight. We're not pretending like we are Puritans or that we're in a convent. Okay, we're going to learn the basics like adult human beings. And that's going to include positive and negative characteristics of various archetypal characters. And I'm going to give you some homework. Now, again, you don't have to do this. You can choose not to do this. Nobody's forcing you to watch these videos. Nobody's forcing you to stick on the stream. You can easily click over if your fifis are hurt. Girls, you're welcome to watch. Maybe you'll find this interesting. I don't know. But most of the material will be, I think girls will agree with this. I basically bounced all these ideas off of Jamie, who is a girl, for those that are wondering. And she seemed to pretty much agree. In fact, a lot of the ideas as to what would be universally attractive are some of the things that she brought to the table. So I wanted, a female perspective too on this stuff. So first of all, most important, most easy that we need to say from the outset is, if you're not blessed with physical attractiveness, if you have some sort of like major thing going on, like really effed up teeth, I'm not talking about a rebel tooth. I'm not talking about a minor, thing. And sometimes minor things can be sort of unique or endearing, like, the Cindy Crawford mole on her lip. Those kinds of things are, I'm talking 90s stuff, right? Or I'm trying to think of a, sometimes people have features like large eyes, and that might be attractive to some people. It's not, in my view, inherently bad to have some kind of minor or some degree of, quote, plastic surgery if you have something like significantly messed up. I mean, if you think about it, people that had braces, braces is really just trying to reorganize just effed up teeth, right? So you got to get your teeth straight if you can, unless it's something like, a cute little rebel tooth like I have. It's not about being perfect. And that's one extreme. The other extreme, I think, is where people go full on into body modification and just totally change their appearance. To me, that's weird. I don't know why you would want to do that. I don't find it attractive. I think that there is a degree of harmony, proportion, and symmetry that is objective in terms of beauty and attractiveness. So I understand shooting for those things. And if you got like a dang, jacked up jaw, or you got like no front teeth or something like nasty shit like that, like you got to get that number one, right? Obviously. If you are significantly overweight, you're going to have to drop it. One of the first things that girls will resonate with, whether you like it or not, is physical appearance. And just basic stuff should be obvious, but I guess a lot of like Zoomer age guys don't know or follow this regimen. We're in some kind of weird like Arrested Development, neoteny dystopia, but like obviously if you are into Funko Pops, Marvel, and you smell like ass, you're never going to get a girlfriend. Okay? So number one, we're not going to smell like ass. Very simple principle number one. Right? If you have disgusting appearances, if you have acne, that's diet related almost all the time. Okay, you've got nasty, greasy ass hair with a bunch of dandruff. That's also diet related. So number one, fix your diet. So I want to point out, this is a great clip from Kotel where there was some Zoomer dude bragging about his evening meal. This is actually what kids are eating, like Zoomer dudes, like 18-year-old dudes. This is like their meals at night. This is crazy.
Of genetic level, because now only certain parts of the genome are being expressed, they're being selected for, and it's all being contained based on the sort of environmental conditions. Now, what I want to connect this to is obviously humanity and potentially things that are going on right now. But what I saw on Twitter, and hopefully I have a photo up right here, is I commented on a gentleman's dinner, right? And I believe he was a groiper or something like that. And I don't mean to characterize all groipers or Fuentes' fans of any sort of broad brush. So that's not what I'm trying to do. Just this individual. And you'll see this thing, I think commonly amongst, the sort of 18 to 25-year-old men on Twitter, on social media. But he was talking about how he was a king, this is a common euphemism. And then he was talking about his dinner, which if you look at it, has microwavable chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, brownies that you would get for a child with the sort of colorful sprinkles on it, and a big glass of chocolate milk. And
this is what a dude was bragging was the dinner of a king. I mean, I guarantee you that dude ain't no king, okay? And if you want to watch this full video, it's pretty good. It deals with neoteny. I'll give you the link right there. We're not going to watch that whole video. I just wanted to point out that I remember this when it happened. I remember that tweet, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And it's a great discussion that he has in that whole podcast on neoteny. So if you get a chance, check that out. Let's see. We're going to go to my archetypes first, or we're going to talk about style. Maybe we should do... All right, we'll talk about this in a second first. Yeah, so first and foremost, it's obvious, like, you're going to need to alter probably your diet. Now, again, there's probably 5 to 10% of the dudes out there that are kind of already good, alpha, Chad, Sigma. They're doing fine. They don't need this kind of stuff. But, I mean, again, if you are significantly overweight, if you dress like a child, we're going to look through a series of things that partially this is going to be somewhat my personal taste and my thoughts and reflection. And you may feel differently, and maybe, you're dressing for your circle of friends. I don't know, but so when I'm out, and I was paying attention yesterday as we went out to various places in the city, and I was looking at how people dressed and how they acted, how they interacted. And I understand maybe you're dressing for your circle of friends, but I would say start to think about not dressing for your circle of friends. If everybody in your circle of friends wears like Nike stuff and sports gear and like baggy pants or super tight pants or puffy coats or like this style, this vibe, you see this, for example, in London a lot. If you go to New York, and especially like amongst black dudes or black kids, they all kind of dress this way. And I don't think that this is, it's just not appealing at all, especially when you go to the city and everyone wears black. Let me see if we can find a picture of that. To me, that is just some kind of weird, like a hive mind kind of attitude of, I thought I had like these dudes right here, these brothers right here. The Balenciaga Kanye puffy coat that is still ubiquitous, or like the city metro brothers that dress like this, or the white urban post hipsters that dress like this. It looks clownish and cartoonish. So the first thing I would say, style wise, and aesthetically speaking, is like, don't worry about the trends ultimately. Now, some things like you might want to pay attention to, like for example, ties are not really in. So like right now, people have kind of not been wearing a lot of ties. That doesn't mean you can't wear a tie. Maybe you're at some kind of, really formal event like a wedding or something like that. You may want to or need to wear a tie. I don't really wear ties anymore. I kind of always found them annoying, but I did wear them a lot for certain jobs or, things that I was doing that required that kind of attire. And this is the first lesson that we want to learn, which is propriety. Nobody talks about this except maybe boomers. And this is one of the things that we have to give boomers credit for, is that at least boomers understood the notion of propriety and impropriety. Another example of this, I was watching this stupid Trent Horn video where he's talking about how it is always wrong to say a cuss word. And I'm like, first of all, what even is a cuss word? Okay, there's no such things as words that are inherently evil. Now, I agree that if you are constantly being vulgar and you're always cussing, that's an unattractive trait and it doesn't show propriety. It's an example of impropriety. Or if in certain settings you immediately start cussing everyone out, or if you're around older folks or you're around your priest and you just start cussing and acting like a sailor, that's that's impropriety. Like to talk about, say, sexual things at church, that would be an action that is improper. It shows impropriety. So there's a time and a place for things. That's the key here. But a lot of immature people, a lot of middle-class, self-righteous people, for example, they want to have this universalized puritanical morality. A lot of Protestants and evangelicals are this way, where there's never a time for celebration. There's never a time for leisure. There's never a time for laxity and, comedy, laughing, theater, entertainment. It's all hyper moral at all times, right? And this is where you get, temperance and never drinking. I personally do not drink, but I don't not drink because of some stupid Baptist hyper moral reason. I just personally don't like it, and I don't need it and don't want it, and it's not good for me. But there's nothing inherently wrong with drinking. And somebody even commented the other day, they were like, oh, in Greece and Italy, we were raised drinking wine. I can't believe you're saying people shouldn't drink. Obviously, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about American tards that grow up intentionally becoming like heathens and just acting like, I don't know, Vikings with meat or something, right? No, we're not supposed to act that way and live that way. And so in some cases, there might be a good reason to not drink. But a lot of people want these like hyper moral reasons to feel better than other people. For example, if you're a dork, Trent Horn is a complete dork. And so Trent, being insecure as a dork, feels the need to have a lot of rules and ways that he feels better than people. And so if he never cusses and never says a naughty word, right? Because clearly the word butt is holier than the word ass. Clearly, right? I mean, which again, obviously this is kind of stupid. And if you think about it, the real basis for vulgar words or the Vulgate, it actually kind of explains the whole ethos behind this. So, for example, the Vulgate was the vulgar language. It was the language of the people. And there's nothing inherently wrong with the Vulgate and something being in the vernacular. But over time, and Nietzsche actually has a good essay on this. I'm not saying everything Nietzsche says is right. This is the age that we're in. We're in such a bizarre, stupid, just hyper puritanical, weird age where everything has to be qualified. Like, I can't just say, for example, that Nietzsche has a good essay on this, because a bunch of dummies will immediately say, he promotes Nietzsche and he teaches Nietzscheanism. As if the rest of the entire context of this whole channel and everything we talk about can't qualify that. That's just a mark of immaturity. And so a lot of what we deal with is extreme, rabid immaturity. Now, that doesn't always apply to things like comedy or satire, because in those situations, you are intentionally engaging in immaturity. Let's say if I made a fart joke in a weird, inopportune time, that case might be unique because it's intended to be comedic. It's supposed to be funny. It's a joke. We're doing a bit, etc. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who sort of make these across the board weird moral laws that don't really exist anywhere except in their own invention and in their head. And it's just a way for dorks to feel like they're better than other people when they don't have many qualities that would make them actually, quote, better than people. It's just a sign of insecurity and immaturity and weakness. So the same thing, I think, when you see guys wrapped up in fashion trends. And when I look at these guys here, it's like, this dude looks like Charlie Brown, but he's got like 70s, it's like Charlie Brown's going to the disco. The guy in the middle there with like the shaved head, and then this other guy with the shaved head. I mean, you look at these dudes and you just automatically know they're shitheads. Like, there's no way these guys are cool, or like you want to talk to these guys. They just scream pretentious, right? And then like amongst black styles or whatever, you see a lot of sports and cartoon characters. I guess this is like Pokemon. I mean, like anything urban and city style is just totally like, I can't stand it. I think it looks ridiculous. And I guess now 90s baggy jeans are back. This is weird to me. But the point I'm making here is, don't follow stupid styles, because in 10 years, you're going to look back and be like, oh man, I look like an idiot. I mean, look at this guy right here on the left. This dude looks like first of all, he looks like a damn hot dog inside of a pink satin girl's jacket with some kind of furry thing on his head. And he looks like he's wearing his pajamas, but this is like cool styles of the city. So most city stuff, urban stuff, right, is just pure garbage, trash. I cannot stand it. I think it's the worst type of like style or fashion out there, in my opinion. Maybe if you're in a city setting and you're around city girls or something that like that. I mean, this looks like a damn Village People. What the heck is this? Dude's wearing he looks like a leather daddy or some shit. Like, what the heck, right? And if you are wrapped up in trends and styles like this as a dude, that's a feminine characteristic. Men are not super concerned with fashion. They're not wrapped up in trends. Okay? So it's a feminine quality to try to get guys all wrapped up in style. Now, that does not mean that you should have no fashion sense. Guess what? For guys, it's actually pretty easy, I would argue. For example, this dude right here, this is a good style. I like this. This is very, this is the type of vibe that I would, the drip that I would drip, right? And of all of these that popped up under, I just used UK because we were looking for these stupid puffy coats. I like this one here. This is a very nice, very dire vibe right here. This dude with the classic blazer, matching pants. That's always a plus. And then a fitting shirt. Okay. So the key here is that no matter what the styles turn into, or all this Skittles crap, all you have to do is ignore all that and literally just wear clothes that fit, right? Not extremely tight and not extremely baggy. And who cares about styles? You just want classic look. That's what I would argue. Now, you don't have to like copy paste every Ralph Lauren dude, but for me, historically, classically, I've always worn Ralph Lauren stuff. And then we'll look at some other designer stuff that I've worn. And I'm not trying to tell you to wear designer stuff. I happen to be in a situation where I have two relatives who gifted me many things and have given me many designer things. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm talking about a different designer that we'll look at in a minute. It's kind of what we'll look at is actually kind of classic Southern men's style, Southern gentleman style. But I think this kind of look is classic. It never goes out. And like you see this guy right here, right? This Getty image due to the Ralph Lauren look. I mean, that could literally be today, or that could be 1987, right? It's a timeless look. It doesn't go away. And so you don't look dated when people look back at your picture, and they're not going to say, oh, why were you wearing those ridiculous 17 sizes too large jeans? You look like an idiot. You look like a parachute. Why are you dressed like that? Right? So the more you can kind of morph into something kind of classic, the better I think you are for style. That's my take on it. I like that look there. I'm not a big vest guy. That's a little too formal for me. But these looks are not bad. They look very, like, everything is fitting, right? So you don't have like super tight pants, which are freaking Skittles as heck. I mean, why are you trying to show everybody your butt and your junk, dude? That's gay. And they're not freaking Juggalo level Jinko jeans. Okay, again, why would we even dress like that? This smooth looking Asia man here, that's a nice look right there. That's my vibe right there. And again, the reason that you would dress this way is to avoid being trendy. Okay, guys do not care about being trendy. Guys just simply want to look cool, smooth, right? We don't care about chick trends and what's the latest thing. Now, one other thing I would say too is I do believe that it's nice to have a watch. I always have a decent watch. Now, when I was broke, I still had a watch, and it was a steel watch. But I think even though it was like, solid steel or whatever it was, like it did accentuate the look. It's classic. It's timely. It makes you look like you have some, important place to be. It's just a classically masculine thing to wear a watch. A lot of people don't do this. So, I mean, you don't have to. I'm not telling you got to do this. But I've always thought watches were kind of boss. But the better the watch, I think this is also a good thing to do. Like, so it is a nice accessory to have. I think necklaces, gold necklaces are good. I'm pro gold necklace. I'm pro minimal jewelry. I mean, if you're full on Captain Jack Sparrow and you're loaded up, that's a little overboard. Like, you're gonna be. I mean, maybe if you're Captain Jack Sparrow, you're gonna get like festival chicks. Like, that's what you're going for. That would work, I guess. But like a whole bunch of jewelry on a dude is just weird and kind of feminine. So minimal jewelry, but some jewelry, I think, is a plus. And the only thing I would say about cologne, I was always a cologne dude. I always thought it was a positive. I always thought it accentuated, whatever you were doing, wherever you were. I would not recommend a lot of modern colognes because they're actually toxic. However, there are good organic colognes that you can find. So try to find, if you did want to do that, try to find a masculine scent, not some kind of fruity fairy crap, some kind of masculine type of scent, and that will go a long way if you're a single dude and you're trying to meet people. All right, so another recommendation for dude styles, I've been given and have a lot of Billy Reid stuff. Most of the stuff that you see me wearing, I would say 80% of the time, unless I'm wearing a t-shirt and just kind of being casual, which is okay to be at times, is where's Billy Reid? So Billy Reid is like Southern gentleman style. I think he's out of Nashville, and I'm not telling you guys that you have to do this. I'm just telling you like what typically I'm wearing, and it's pretty expensive. So this is like more high-end stuff. So if you are doing fine money-wise, Billy Reid is a good style to go for. Like this shirt right here is a Billy Reid shirt. And that, like, if you were a single dude in Nashville, that would resonate pretty good with women, I would say. Like, I would not wear this dude's hat, right? But You know, the shirt and the vest is not bad. And in fact, I didn't even realize that Billy Reed was like fitting Bond in Spectre, I think. So when you saw the Daniel Craig, some of Daniel Craig's outfit was Billy Reed. I didn't even know that, but I literally have like like a closet like full of Billy Reed stuff. And it's a funny story how that's the case, but it is the case. And I'm not telling you you have to do this. I'm just giving you some examples. So if you're like here's a good look right here. This dude's got it going on. That's nice. See that right there? That's cool. Again, I don't do the vests, but that's good. That kind of even looks like what I wore at my wedding, and my wedding outfit was Billy Reed. And I think the advantage of this style is like, it's not, yeah, here we go. Yeah, there we go. It's not, it's masculine, but it's not like Skittles trendy, and you're not concerned with, you know, weird stuff, bizarre stuff in terms of like the look, but it's also like fashionable, you know what I mean, without being super gay. So I think that's what I would say is a positive here. Now, let's compare, just think aesthetically here. From the vantage point of a female, right? How were those guys dressed versus this? I mean, I know it's kind of obvious, but let me give an example. Yesterday, when I was out at a bunch of different places, grocery stores, shopping centers, etc., I was watching and paying attention to all of the dudes and all the females that I saw, and noting their interactions and checking out the style. Now, I've done this many, many times where I kind of do a survey, and this is in the South, so keep that in mind. How many of the guys do you think I saw who were overweight, or the ladies were overweight, in, say, out of 20 people, just randomly 20 people, how many do you think were overweight? I want you guys, out of 20, I want you guys to give me your best guesses in the chat. And this is not a fluke. I wasn't at the carnival funnel cake line. Okay, this is kind of everywhere. What is your best guesses? Out of 20. We got 18, we got half, we got a 15, we got a 19, we got a 12, a 15. So, turns out over half. Okay, so about 60% were significantly overweight, right? So I'd say, yeah, 13, 14. Most of the guys I see, they look like this Riddler over here, okay, with his comic book stuff, or the Diddler, whatever he is. the Vittler for the Vitland, the Vitlins, is that a southern fried food? Sounds like it would be. The Vittler over here. I mean, we got, like, this is the norm. Chunky dudes with Batman, Spider-Man, Marvel shirts. This is what I see out in the world on a daily basis. Okay. And just compare that with, for example, the look that you see if you saw this guy. And Jamie, by the way, there's no promo code. This is not it. But Jamie recommends this website for like blazers and men's polos and whatnot because they have all cotton stuff, right? So they're material over at Quince. Another thing too, yeah, I meant to mention, like it's sometimes it's difficult, but you want to try to avoid a lot of like synthetic, weird like not cotton stuff, like polyester and this kind of stuff. But I mean, look at this guy, right? Versus, and the same principle applies to these damn sports bros, right? Versus guys with comic book shirts on. Like, why are you wearing a comic book shirt as a guy? There's really no excuse. I noticed too, it was kind of hard to, like, they don't actually pull up, right? Like, this guy's perfect. The Vidler over here, the Diddler. This guy, he's a perfect example. But, I mean, most of the time what I see is just these absolutely, just, they look like a damn wreck, right? Looking like a dang, it looks like a GameStop threw up, right? I mean, this is the type of dude that we're making fun of with our Funko Pop stuff, right? And what is even, is this the Riddler? I don't even know what this is. It says cosplay. I mean, look, soy mouth, right? Just looking like a dang idiot. Cargo pants, cargo shorts. Are you serious? Look at these guys. This is every dude I see out in public. They look like this. So, number one simple fix, as we said, fix your looks. Try to fix whatever you can easily. Do not dress like you're a 13-year-old boy who loves and just saw Spider-Man. Next up, you know, I have intense hatred for the sports bro. Okay, this is the most pathetic thing next to the soy men, and the sportsmen are soy men too. And everybody, that you're sort of living out your masculinity secondhand through black dudes running in circles. Okay, and these guys live their life in sports for beer and jerseys. And ironically, this is actually something that also you should grow out of. Did you know that like 150 years ago, sports was seen as something for children? It was for young guys, young boys, to learn kind of basic life principles about discipline, you know, hard work, training, commitment, teamwork, loyalty, being a leader on a team. That's what sports were supposed to teach children. And through social engineering, and this is absolutely 100% verified, there was a plan to make sports the obsession of the culture, to the extent that the first test tube for this experimentation, the UK, they're so far gone down this rabbit hole, down this drain, that women in the UK complain that all the men do, and I believe this, is watch the Manchester football, whatever, and drink. So the whole country is being taken over by Muslims because all of the men checked out and are drunk sports idiots. And they were decades ahead of us in the US, who, thank God, are not obsessed with stupid ass soccer, but something just as fake and gray and just as packed with social engineering, which we talked about for 15, 20 years. And I used to get made fun of by masculine Chad dudes. They would actually get mad at me over me constantly dissing sports and their worship of sports. I got a lot of heat over the years for this. And what have we seen in the last 5 years? It's 100% propaganda. All the BLM, all the Skittles, all the nonsense, totally wrapped up in sports. Sports is a massive idol, especially for dudes. And you have to think about all these things as fake, synthetic masculinity that takes and saps your time and attention and makes you an absolutely ridiculous, dumb, dull normie. And unless you are playing the sport, It's ridiculous, in my view. It's immature. And this country will never be fixed until we stop worshiping sports. I mean, here's all y'all slow boys right here, out there on the sports field with your giant boobs. And this niche of weirdos is part and parcel with their BFF niche, who overlaps with them, as you know, the IPA beer bro. I'm not telling you that it's wrong for a guy to make a good beer. In fact, somebody had some interesting podcast. I think it was a Bitcoin podcast, and they were actually talking about the entire rise of IPAs was actually a reaction to American crappy beers, believe it or not. So because American beer was so just pure garbage, in the early 2000s, a lot of dudes, and it was a lot of hipsters, had the idea to start actually making, microbrew craft quality beer. Okay, I get that, right? That makes sense. But after 20 years of this and more, like every beer bro looks like this and acts like a complete idiot. And I've done rants on this that have gotten a lot of views. You know my thoughts. I'm not going to repeat all this. But they all look like this, and they all worship sports, and they all don't know anything, and they're all just complete arrogant idiots. Every IPA beer bro is just like this. And we all know it. And every time you look up these people, they all look the same. Like, who the heck is this dude? He looks just like all the other dudes in this domain. Look at these dudes. The same thing. They all have shitty beards. They all wear shitty glasses. And they're fat. And why is everyone fat? Like, literally, this whole freaking country are a bunch of damn tards. Lard tards. Why is everyone fat? It's not that hard to not be fat. And yet everyone is so fat. Why? And guess what? It's not all their fault. It is actually the crappy quality products. So thank God for RFK Jr. and at least moving in that direction. Dude, this is every beer bro right there. And I get it from a standpoint of doing a business or whatever. You're going to learn about brewing and you're going to talk about this shit or whatever. And I get it. It's your business. That's fine. But like these types of dudes, they will talk your ear off about all the different brews. And this is more of a lager and an IPA, and it's got a really hoppy feel to it. Shut up, dude. Every time I do this too, like even the people who love IPAs and all this kind of stuff, like they actually get this. Here's an actual beer that's just flannel, like because all the beer bros wear. Why do they all have this style? This is like a weird. I don't mind. It's like MK like beer MK Ultra or something. I don't know what's going on, but this dude, in my opinion, it's just not a. It's another like a simulated masculinity, right? Like guys are into sports and beer. Maybe when you're 10 and you're 13 or whatever, you're trying your first beer, but like because every fat beer dude is not actually out chopping down trees, right? Like the beer dude is trying to go for this Paul Bunyan lager shit, right? I'm into logging and lager. I'm a logger. Right? He's logging with his like here's one standing on a log. So I drink lagers while I stand on logs. It's masculine. Anyway, look, this stuff gives you boobies, your bitch tits, and kills your masculine drives, shall we say? And makes you sleepy and makes you dumb. So IPA beer bros, get out of here, dude. Now, I don't think girls, maybe there's some women that are, there's girls love to drink. So you got to be careful here because you can't be a teetotaler. But If you're out on a date and, you know, somebody wants to have a drink, okay, go for it. But do not, I would just say, don't get drunk. Just avoid getting drunk. Next up, worst type of man, dude, gamers. Gamers, again, cut down on this stuff. If you want to do this every now and then, okay. But like a lot of dudes are this dude, right? A lot of dudes are this dude. Gamer dudes. Chunky gamer dudes. I mean, look at this dude. Here's an 800-pound gamer dude. What the heck? Or this, what's his name? Boogie, that everybody talked about forever. Who basically went insane, I think. This dude, right? I'm getting tired of the AI stuff too, but that's like all that comes up when you type this stuff. I mean, remember the Euphoria atheist memes? This guy's like this, right? So right away, this guy, the long hair is not working for you. You need to lose 80 pounds. Stop. Your diet is what's giving you all the acne. Like immediately we can tell this guy right away what to do, right? Anyway, so that's what I have to say on that. These are the archetypes, loosely speaking, that we want to avoid, right? We don't want any of these things to be anywhere near us. These are the toxic archetypes that we want to get rid of. And now Jamie is a big fan of facial hair. I know all Orthodox people want beards. Again, my opinion, and Jamie agreed as a female, if you're a dude and you are not clergy or a monk, it doesn't make sense to try to grow some massive church father beard. It almost just looks like you're LARPing, right? And her assessment was that, you know, that's about the maximum length that a guy should have if he wants to be attractive to a woman, right? So we're talking about guys that are, you know, we're not talking about 70-year-old men that are widowed, you know, that are hanging out in their garden all day. And nobody's going to care. We're talking about if you're a young guy and you're trying to attract a mate. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so looking like you are not homeless, basically, right? I've got Orthodox bro friends, and it's fine if they want to do it. That's their choice. But, you know, they've got homeless man beards. And well, Jamie's laughing, being serious. And in their mind, they're like, oh, bro, I'm like super spiritual with this beard. And look how ascetic I am. It's like, look at this beard. It's ascetic. It's like, but you're not, dude. You work at Krispy Kreme. You're not an ascetic. What are you talking about? You could be an ascetic and work at Krispy Kreme. Yeah, but nobody wants to get your donuts when you've got hair like dangling and touching the donut dough, bro. Jamie's laughing. So, point being, like, just be kempt. Even if you have long hair, you can look okay and kempt versus unkempt with beard or with hair. Also, I was just going to add, like, if you're a dude and you want to vary the styles, right, by what's appropriate. Obviously, yes, in warmer situations and climates, you don't have to always wear pants. For some reason, this is like, I think, you know, in places like Italy, like men are never supposed to wear shorts. Okay, well, those people have never been to Florida. Okay, so you cannot wear pants all year round in some sort of like ridiculously humid locale, right? So I am a fan of beach aesthetic, as you guys know. I like the Miami Vice vibe. I like the Sonny Crockett vibe. I like beach guy vibe. That to me resonates because whether you think about it or not, like your style is going to project things to the woman in question or to who we're talking about. And she's going to be, whether, again, it doesn't matter whether you think it's fair or it makes sense. Throw all that out. Okay, we're looking at pure pragmatic, objective facts here. We don't care about whether you think it's fair or not. Okay? I like this vibe. I like this style. And I like it because I'm a child of the 80s. I was a child in the 80s. And it suggests something very laid back, but smooth, right? In the 80s, everybody thought Sonny Crockett was cool. And that look, that Miami dude look, it has never gotten old. I mean, that could be something that a guy wears right now, like the Ralph Lauren stuff that we saw. So my point, though, in this is not telling you that you have to adopt that style. My point is that it would be good for you to maybe kind of adopt a trademark style. Like, this is what some guys call peacocking, and that's a good thing. You can go crazy with it, but I remember one time I was at a bar. This is probably around 2011, and I was there with my buddy Ben. This was in Cincinnati. I forget the name of that area where there's like all these bars in Cincinnati, but they had gentrified this area, and we were at this big kind of open like plaza area out back behind a bar where there was just tons of people back there, right? So there's like, I don't know, maybe 50 people mingling back there. And my buddy and I were there with some other friends, so it wasn't like we were doing cold approach because we didn't know anybody. Like, we had some friends with us, and I think we were dancing with a couple girls that, one of which was a friend of my buddy's girlfriend. And I mean, it was innocent fun. There was no, it was just, we were out hanging out, dancing, just like normal types of stuff, not like twerking. Okay. Like normal white people out at the bar dancing. Does this still exist? I guess I don't know. Does it still exist? I don't know. But, one thing that was interesting was like these two dudes who thought it would be funny, they dressed in like some absolutely outrageous outfits. Like, so one of them had on like a total weird, like sparkly sequin. They weren't gay. Like, they were just being funny. Like a John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever weird outfit, right? And then another dude came in something equally kind of outlandish. And they ended up being the talk of this entire bar party because of their ridiculous outfits. And they didn't care. And yeah, there was dudes who were, oh, look at them two dudes. They look like a bunch of gays. Look at them gays. But they didn't care. They were having fun. And girls liked it. The girls started talking to these guys. And I mean, they were decent looking dudes from what I remember. They weren't like hideously ugly dudes that couldn't pull it off. They pulled it off because they didn't care. So in that example that comes to mind, peacocking can work when you kind of have your own kind of unique style. So, and this ties into, I think, one of the points that a lot of young dudes need to know, which is you're eventually going to have to become your own man. And a lot of young dudes, like, they'll just try to like literally copy or copy paste some dude. Like, who was that nerdy potato boy that we were talking about the other day? Tyler Hockley or whatever. He wants to be Tate, and he thinks that if he just like literally tries to mimic everything Tate does, like this like 15-year-old, 16-year-old idiot kid, like he'll be Tate. Okay, you're not gonna be Tate, and Tate is not somebody you would want to be anyway, right? So it's a sign of immaturity. I think a sign of youth, I guess, that you're trying to be something that you're not. Now, this is a little complicated though, because guys do need kind of archetypes and images to shoot for, right? And the only reason we're not talking about Jesus tonight is because most people in the world, they don't think of Jesus the way he actually is in the scriptures as actually very masculine. They think of Jesus as like hippie Jesus. Okay. So we're not talking about that just because there's so much misconception about what Jesus or who Jesus actually is. Right. So we're going to be using pop culture images and references and archetypes. And so, Sonny Crockett is an interesting male hero archetype because he is a law enforcement guy. He deals with mob criminal activities. He has a gun, right? These kinds of things that are masculine activities. These are all positive qualities, and he dresses well. And all of the 80s ladies thought that Sonny Crockett was a cool guy. So those are the positive qualities here. And he was, as a man, he projected this sort of, very independent, very suave, not bothered by minutia type of guy. And those are all positive masculine qualities, and in ways very similar to perhaps what we would see with James Bond, right? So the next we're going to move into talking about male archetypes, good and bad. I think I covered this. Let's see. Oh, the one other thing I want to say about young guys too was when you're young, you're going to be somewhat insecure, and insecure dudes get very emotional. They have not yet mastered their emotions, and so they can get kind of out of whack and upset very easily, get riled up very easily. This is something that you're going to have to overcome, and it's hard, especially when you're really young. And that can be by, your friends that maybe they make fun of you and you get your feelings hurt, or somebody's provoking you intentionally on. This happens, for example, in sports, where people try to get into your head. If you're the opposing team, you start talking smack to get into the guy's head, right? So you have to kind of get past that and get to the point where your emotions don't rule you, because those are more feminine characteristics and qualities. Guys should be governed by reason, by logic, by self-control and self-discipline. But don't get too hard on yourself or too down if you don't immediately have that, because those are qualities and characteristics that take many years to develop. The things that used to make me mad, when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, they don't make me mad anymore. And it really does, I think, also relate to the age that you're at. Like once you hit age 30 and then into age 35, you will less and less care what other people think and say. And there will be a kind of an internal change in you where it just won't affect you, won't bother you. That doesn't mean it never will, but generally speaking, somebody can still get on your nerves. Somebody can still rile you up. You're never going to be some sort of perfectly functioning machine. You're still going to always be human. You're going to be susceptible to whatever vices and weaknesses you're susceptible to. So don't have these outrageous, outlandish expectations on yourself. Next, we're going to talk about envy. Envy is another one that young guys fall into because you're insecure, you're unsure of yourself, you don't know about the world, you haven't really done a lot yet, not a lot of accomplishments. And so you're insecure, and then you naturally will immediately want to be envious, and then you want to be a hater. I think every guy at some point has been an envious hater at some point, right? Because nobody's born super Chad Sigma, I don't think. Maybe somebody is. But a lot of these qualities are qualities that are learned or are gained over time and through adversity. For example, one guy was saying in the comments on yesterday's video about top 10 advice for guys topics, he said that he thought that a lot of young men, especially like younger men, had never engaged in hard work. I thought that was actually a really good assessment too. I'm not saying that the ideal is that all men should be working on oil rigs or be coal miners. In fact, no, you should actually totally try to avoid that kind of a lifestyle or job, unless you just have some, intense. And some dudes do. Some dudes really like super intensive manual labor. If that's you, that's you. But those kinds of seasons where you have really intense hard work to do, they do build character. They are really important. And it didn't even occur to me that, man, I bet a lot of guys aren't even experiencing that. And I'll give you an example that I went through. This is one of the worst experiences ever. But do you know one thing it taught me? It was kind of laying the groundwork for me not wanting to work in that kind of wage environment. I remember one summer when it was my first job at a paint store. And before I was the paint mixer manager, I had to do all the crappy positions. So I had to be the dude that would scrape up the old flooring, because we also did flooring there. And I had to be the guy that would scrape old wallpaper. These are like the worst jobs, okay? But I did that for an entire summer, okay? And the worst job that we ever had was an old folks home that was having the entire wing's floor replaced. Now, this was decades of old people urine that had seeped into underneath the tiles. And I had, in a wing with no air conditioning, an entire summer to scrape up all the floor. This was hell. This was the closest that I've been to hell. Okay, and sometimes you would walk into the rooms and the old people were fully unclothed. And it literally was decades of pee underneath the tiles and the flooring. It was awful. And after that summer, I decided I will never, ever have a job like this again. And I will do anything in my power to not do this kind of... So that taught me a lot. It taught me how bad those kinds of jobs can be. But it was a massive learning experience. And it was super hard work. But there was actually positive to that. Believe it or not, that horrible, horrible scenario, when I was finished in the evenings, right? Because I think it was 9 to 5. We might have quit at 4. I don't remember. But I was like so relieved when the day was over, right? And it was just an extremely intense experience I'll never forget. And it's weird to me to think of never having had that kind of experience. You know what I mean? That was a season of adversity. Because, I mean, if you're like 14, 15, I don't remember how old I was. You don't want to be doing that. It was as bad as it sounds. But an entire summer of that, I think, it was worth the bad experience, I guess I should say. It was an intense season of adversity. And so guys are going to have to figure out ways to challenge themselves, to take on types of adversities, and to persevere through. I'm not telling you to go to boot camp, by the way. This shit was probably worse than boot camp. That was like my own personal boot camp. Hey, Jamie, could you make me an espresso? Jamie, could you make me an espresso? Let's see. We got all that. We got all that. Oh, you're gonna get homework tonight too, y'all. Gonna give you guys some homework. Let's talk about the archetypes, and then we're gonna talk about the ultimate awful archetype. We don't have to go to like images of these people. We can talk about these. Everybody's familiar with James Bond. But I mean, you know, some of the positives of James Bond without getting all puritanical and bitching about, oh, he sleeps with women. Yeah, I know that. He's a spy for the government. He's a complete psycho. And he's a killer. But there's certain things that James Bond has as qualities that are attractive to women, whether we like that or not, or whether we think it makes sense or whatever. And some of those are that he, in the situations that he's in, I know he's a fictional character, but in the situations that he's in, he's not actually very rattled by whatever's going on. Now, again, most dudes are not going to be that calm in a situation, but he's calm enough in the situations that they don't rattle him. He's not easily rattled, so he's able to control his emotions, right? So that's something that is a positive quality to James Bond. James Bond also dresses well, right? He doesn't ever look like a slob. And even though James Bond is middle to low class, you wouldn't know that in the presence of James Bond. You would think this is some kind of, you know, dude that's got stuff going for him. I'm not saying you got to wear a tuxedo, right? But James Bond is not afraid of walking up to people and talking to them. He's not afraid of, even to a degree, dying. And if he's not afraid of dying, and if you've overcome some of these, you know, classic human fears, why would you be afraid of approaching and talking to a woman? Right? And women are very, very hypersensitive to minutia or body language or microaggressions or micro expressions. And so if you betray nervousness and fear and you're trying to talk to a girl and your hand, then your voice is shaking, like she's going to know that, right? So that's a fear that you've not yet overcome. He's overcome this. He's talked to countless women. He's not afraid of talking to a woman. And why does the young guy feel that fear? Well, he's afraid of rejection. He's afraid of her not liking him, not finding him attractive. What if he says something dorky? What if he stumbles over his words? Well, guess what? Who cares? In the end, it doesn't matter. I've seen, for example, in my past, dudes that were not very bright, not very suave, kind of idiots, but they were still able to do okay with women just because they weren't afraid of them. So a lot of guys, especially young, smart guys, totally overthink this kind of stuff. And there's all the red pilly, grifty people like trying to sell you a course and all this stuff. Like all you got to know is to figure out like, don't be fat, like fix your hygiene, try to be personable, make normal conversations, be yourself, stop trying to act like you're some Romanian weirdo. And if yourself is super nerdy, work on yourself. For example, James Bond's gait. His gait, the way he walks like a normal, confident man. He does not walk like a nerd who speeds across. If you notice how nerds walk, they walk stiff and quick like they've got something in their butt. Like they're scared, like they're little nerd mice running around. It's like, why are you walking like that? You're walking like a mouse. Like, dude, relax. Like, why are you walking like that? You look like an idiot. Like, James Bond walks into a room and he looks like a normal guy and he goes and he stands over at the bar and he leans back and he has conversations. He does not walk in and like speed across the room like a Krellboyne. If you've watched Malcolm in the Middle, then you know who the Krellboynes are. Right? No Krellboyne is ever getting a girlfriend. And in fact, if you've not watched Malcolm in the Middle, it's almost worth watching just for that kind of stuff, right? Nerds have this spurgy, like, why do you, like, something's wrong with your body, dude. Why are you walking like something's stuck in your butt? It's weird. They walk like they're like on some little invisible motorcycle, right? And that's how the Krellboynes are in the show, right? Krellboyne in Malcolm in the Middle, they're the challenged children. And one of them like runs everywhere. Like he's like, oh, he does everything on a motorcycle. That's how nerdy dudes, spurgy dudes act and walk. Okay. That type of body language signals to a woman that you're a freaking dork, dude. It's immediate, like, turn off. No girl is going to find that attractive. Okay, so there are archetypes that you should shoot for. I'm not telling you to go sleep with all the women. I'm just saying that think about the positive qualities that James Bond exudes that are worth bringing into your psyche, that archetype, so to speak. Because I guarantee you, if you're who do you think a woman would prefer? Sean Connery or the chunky gamer dude? I mean, it's like kind of, a lot of this stuff's really obvious. It's not rocket science, okay? But for some reason, I guess a lot of people do need to hear this kind of stuff. If you've never asked out a girl, look, if you're if you're above 9th grade, 10th grade, and you've never asked a girl out, okay, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Like, you should have done this by now. And I don't need to hear a million excuses. Oh, but the girls are mean. Oh, the girls, they're all whores now. Oh, they're all trash now. All the girls are on OnlyFans. All the girls are... Stop whining. Dudes need to stop whining. Whine. Bitching on Twitter. Ugh. That's pathetic. Okay, all your pathetic qualities, which we're going to talk about the pathetic dude in a minute, the archetype of the worst dude, all that shit's got to stop. None of that. Get it out of here. No more. Every time you're tempted to whine and complain about women this and women are liars because they wear makeup. Makeup is a lie. What? This is the stupidest shit I've ever heard, dude. That is so dumb. There's actually dudes actually say this. Can you believe that? I don't know what's going. Like, this is like the MGTOW incel-y type stuff, which is just, I can't stand that stuff. Never have cared for that stuff. At least something like Neil Strauss's book would teach you how to dress nice, how to engage in conversation, right? I'm not advocating for everything the book tells you to do, because any positive trait or quality can be misused, right? So you can learn social dynamics, social skills, and you can misuse those. But you can also use them properly to your advantage. And these are skills that are kind of universal in other areas as well. For example, you want to be a teacher. Okay, can you dress nice and communicate effectively? Or do you have weird speech impediments and you talk like a retort and it's all fucked up? Like the Idiocracy line goes. That's a quote from a movie. I mean, it's just, again... So if you're a young dude and let's say you've never approached a girl or asked a girl out, okay? Well, I would say, first of all, let's work on the physical appearance. Okay, I'm gonna be your Will Smith Hitch right here, right? You're Kevin James and I'm Wall Smith. Yeah, I'm joking. Actually though, maybe you should, I mean, it sounds stupid, but like maybe you should watch Hitch, because Kevin James is like a fat nerdy dude. And it's a stupid movie, but I mean, at least like Will Smith kind of like shapes him up a little bit, right? And helps him out. And no, that's a foot fart. Somebody said they wanted to see my calves, by the way. And I do have on shorts because I'm at home. So I'm going to show you my calves. Because they said, you do not have A-game winning basketball calves. And I said, are you sure about that? So there you go. Look at them things. Those are A-game basketball calves right there. Anyway. So if you've never asked a girl out, you've never approached a girl, you've never done this, you're going to need to go through this experience or you're never going to get a girlfriend. In fact, I was even talking to somebody, this is not appropriate for church people. I was talking to a cleric the other day, and he had said to me, I won't say who, but that he was talking to a bunch of, this hot as hell in here. He was talking to a bunch of the young dudes, and many of the young dudes have never talked to a girl or asked them out in person. I'm sure they've slid into DMs on something, but okay, none of this is, it's not the real world, right? So, if you've begun to fix your appearance and you've begun to lose some weight, you've begun to clean up, okay? The best thing for that kind of a dude to meet a girl or to at least get over this fear of asking a girl out and getting rejected is to try something that's day related, like a coffee shop. So take a book, and when you're doing your reading time, depending upon what you kind of think the crowd in this coffee shop might or may not be, you're going to take your book and you're going to sit in there for an hour every few days, and you're going to read in there. And you're going to watch and wait and see if you think a cute girl comes in. And maybe the first time you don't immediately just hit on her. Maybe you strike up a conversation, something like that. That can be very easily done, and it's very effective for, rather than like trying to go to bars and pick up people, okay? That's really annoying. Bars are loud, they're drunk people. It's just a mess. It's not really worth it, The only time that kind of a setting, I would argue, can be okay is if you have a group of friends that are already going out, say, to dance, and maybe you have, a date set up through that, or, your friends are arranging you to meet their friends. That kind of that can work, right? But just you and your bro going to the bars out. I mean, it's not the best. It's just a shitty situation. It usually never works out. Very few people have I ever even heard of who had significant lasting relationships that met at a bar. Like, I've never heard of this. Maybe it does. Most of the time, people meet through other people, but not always. Sometimes you may not be in that situation. Maybe you move to some city for a job. You don't know anybody. Guess what? Time to grow up. Time to meet new people. When I was young, I didn't like moving all the time. My dad was in the military and we moved a lot. And as soon as I would make friends, we'd have to move again. I went through that experience many, many times in my youth, and it sucked. I didn't like it. It would have been nice to stay in one place and have the same friends all my life. And there are advantages to that. But one good thing that happened was that I got used to meeting people, meeting new people, being social, etc., and not being afraid of people in crowds. That was another big one. So if you can gain these skills, these are skills that will help you. For example, when I was in high school, I took public speaking classes. I took theater classes. I was able to act and do things in front of a camera. Never been afraid of it. There were times in my life where I got out of practice. Throughout a lot of my 20s, I didn't do a lot of public speaking and that kind of stuff. I was kind of lost in a world of books, and that was a season that worked out okay for me. There was positives to that season in my life. This season of my life is much more enjoyable than the 10 years in my 20s that I spent in books, but there are positives, pros and cons either way. But I would say, again, it is advantageous to try to learn these skills, right? To try to learn to walk like a normal dude and not like a spurgy stick. To figure out how to make small talk. And this is a difficult one for high IQ people because it is a waste of time to engage in small talk. I do not find it to be positive for me, and it is who cares? Okay, you're going to need to be able to have small talk conversations with people to get along in this world. So it doesn't matter like what you like and what you don't like. Okay, we're doing like our boot camp training course for dorks tonight. And you can do it over the internet. No one has to know you're a dork. You can be a secret dork. We're going to fix you. I'm going to be your wall smoth. I'm your wall smoth. Will Smith. I'm going to come slap you because you got alopecia. I'm just kidding. Thank you guys. Welcome everybody. Appreciate those super chats. You guys are being very generous tonight. You can also super chat through Streamlabs. Let's catch up on some of those before we look at some more of the archetypes. I got a little more archetype information that I want you guys to search or to contemplate, to meditate upon. As we learn RIZZonomics tonight. It's a category 5 RIZZ tonight. Exactly, great comment there, Marnie. Small talk is necessary to be able to suss out whether the person that you're talking to is somebody that you would like to progress to further levels of intimacy with, you see. So a lot of nerdy people want to bypass the things that they think are a waste of time or whatever. Okay, nerdy dudes, you got to understand the way a female thinks and acts and works is not the way you think and act and work. It's very different. So a woman, for example, is going to be much more attuned to the way that you look, your composure, your communication skills, your body language, your smell, your hygiene. She's going to read all that first, right? The same way that a dude looks at a girl's face, boobs and butt, a girl is going to gauge you. She's going to run that Terminator scan, right? To check all those things. And so the way that you start a conversation and have fun with a conversation is way more important from the get-go than all this other stuff. For example, Jamie was talking about a tweet that she saw from some dude saying that he went on it was a girl complaining about a date that she had with a guy. And she said that the guy was acting really weird. And like some of the first stuff that was said was, I want you to know right away that I am intending to marry, and I would like you to be open to having at least 10 children, and blah, 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 blah. And so it's like totally wrong. Okay. The first date, the first time you're meeting somebody, this is not a legal contract. This is not a transaction, art of the deal, Donald Trump thing. Okay. That's business world. Okay. I know Spurgs think everything's mathematics, but in this domain, it's not. Okay. This is more like biology. You would actually learn more from Ev Bio and Ev Psych than you would from like math and those kinds of abstract disciplines. For example, as we're going to see from one of the videos from a girl who actually talks about what women find interesting and attractive in men. And I watched this video earlier and I thought, actually, this is really good. I read an entire book just on the topic that she's going to talk about in terms of indicators and signs that women are interested in. It's not even necessarily just about sexual stuff, but even like engaging in a conversation with you, right? And I know a lot of you in the audience think, why is he talking about this? I'm telling you, man, you guys don't understand. There's like gaggles of dudes 18 to 22 who don't know this stuff. They've never talked to a girl in person. Now, I know the boomers are like, all you got to do is go to the dance and walk up to her and ask her to dance. It doesn't work like this anymore. People are like goblins now. They're retorted now. Okay. So boomers don't even understand how crazy it is. Okay. But here's my thesis. We're still men and women. No matter how much propaganda is pushed and all the inversion that's pushed, people are still going to revert back to their normal biological functioning as male and females. And all the propaganda saying there's no such thing as male and female is just that, propaganda. Intended to destroy human pair bonding and to make sure that men and women don't produce more people. That's what it's all ultimately about. So, let me give you another example of something that I realized when I was in high school that, ninth grade, I dressed like a slob. Then I realized that the guys that dressed nice and preppy, all the girls liked those guys. So guess what I did? Did I whine and complain about girls? Girls is like the top 2% that did it. No, the problem was in me. The problem wasn't the dudes that I was envious of or the girls I was mad at because they didn't like me who dressed like a damn slob. I changed my wardrobe entirely and I started dressing like a nicely dressed dude. And guess what? All that changed. That's simple. I mean, it wasn't just that. Obviously, there's other things that involved as well. But like just the appearance was like a huge one. And then all of the other nerdy dudes and slobby dressed dudes, I had a friend, for example, who was a good friend of mine for a long, long time. One of them, never had a girlfriend until around towards the end of college. And why did he never have a girlfriend? He would never, ever change the way he dressed. And we had a lot of arguments over this. And I would be like, why don't you dress this the way this is this? He's like, screw it. If they don't like me for who I am, then they don't like me. I'm sorry, but that's just not true. Now, eventually he met a person, they got married and so forth. I'm not dissing that, but like, I have other friends who had this same attitude where they were unwilling to do anything on their part, unwilling to make any changes. And they still think they deserve like a 9 or a 10, or they're going to get a 9 or a 10 with absolutely no changes on their part. No, it's not going to happen. So a lot of people are delusional, men and women. I've seen the clips of where, forget that black dude, but he died or whatever, but he used to ask the black woman, like, what you think you deserve? I deserve a man that's 6'6" and makes $600,000. And she's like 500 pounds and got like 6 illegitimate children. Okay, there's famous clips of that. I don't remember the guy's name, but and then you've got the same thing going on with nerdy dudes. Like I deserve like I want like Margot Robbie or whatever. Like she's super hot. Like I don't understand. Like women should like me. Like they shouldn't like sports guys. Like they shouldn't like rich guys. Like they should like me or whatever. Why don't they like me or whatever? Well, why would they? Right? What do you bring to the table? Now, most dudes at this stage get butthurt and they want to complain. That is lazy. That is weak. That is oppression narrative. All the right-wing nerdy dudes that bitch about all this stuff all the time. Women shouldn't be wearing makeup because it's a lie. It's a lie. Dude, look at you. You're in a basement. You're eating Hot Pockets. You're eating chicken tendies in a microwave and chalky milk. You're not in that game. You're not in that tier. And I know this might sound like Wes Watson or whatever. You ain't in my level. I'm just making fun of Wes Watson, but I mean that part is true though, right? Like dudes and girls can be super delusional, right? Fat dudes, gamer dudes, and fat chicks, they can be super delusional. I deserve a man with an Escalade and $6 million and a six-pack, and he's 6'6". Because I got 6 kids. I'm all about that 666. No. So everything, let's put it this way. Everything man-child, get rid of. What are some other man-child characteristics beyond whining and complaining all the time and bitching on Twitter, this and that, and just stupid stuff like women shouldn't wear makeup? That's to me, it's just weird, man. It's bizarre. Who cares if women wear makeup? I mean, if they're like crazy looking like clown or something, I guess that's weird. But like this crusade of weirdos, and it starts to get Muslim. Okay, it starts turning into like Salafi, like women need to wear a burqa. Like that's just crazy, man. Some kind of weird cult. It's bizarre. So I'm getting off. I'm getting off track. Let's get back to our archetypes. I apologize. I'm trying to remember if there was another characteristic that Bond had. I think we covered most of that. Let's look at another archetype, which you might think this one is funny, but there are some elements that this type of an archetype, we're going to use the Jack Sparrow archetype here, is worth looking at because now Jack Sparrow is the wild pirate, crazy bro, right? Who doesn't care. He's sort of the trickster fool archetype, if we were to talk about archetypes again, right? He's carefree, right? He is goofy. He's funny. He loves life. He jokes around. That type of a guy, that type of an archetype, is much more attractive than a nerdy gamer know-it-all. Okay? So, again, we're thinking the good elements of James Bond, the good elements of Jack Sparrow. Okay? Not that he's a pirate or whatever, but the good elements. All right? The carefree aloofness. Right? In the storyline, the women all like Jack Sparrow because he's, again, fun, goofy, and he's aloof. I told you guys that I had a friend in high school that around this 9th, 10th grade era, I started realizing all the girls like so-and-so. What does he have? What's his characteristics that he's got? And he was much more of this kind of an archetype than a James Bond archetype, right? So you have like the super, preppy dudes that a lot of the girls like. That's the James Bondish archetype vibe. And then you kind of have the wild party guy, Dionysian, carefree type of dude. And a lot of the girls like that guy from different circles, but maybe more the alternative hippie type chicks, right? They resonated with this guy. But even some of the preppy girls would like these kinds of guys, right? Because it's a bad boyish, edgy kind of vibe going on. Those are characteristics that you could ingratiate from this archetype if you are imbalanced, so to speak. So let's say you're a super nerdy, uptight, type of dude, and you're on a date, and it's your first date or something, and the discussion comes up of paying for the meal. I don't know how or why this ever became some kind of huge debate all over podcasts and Twitter and gender sphere. To me, this is utterly ridiculous. First of all, it's not a big deal. Like, paying for somebody's dinner, so what?
Well, you don't know. I don't make that much money, and so I don't want to pay for a lot of money.
So what are you signifying right away? You're a loser. You're bitching over paying for a $30 meal for somebody? Like, what? You don't even know. Meals are like $50 now. Okay, whatever. $50. Like, immediately you're signifying that you're petty. You're annoying. You're whining and bitching.
Well, it's the first date. It has to be going Dutch.
Why? No, it doesn't. Like, it's not a big deal. In my vast time of many dates, I don't ever remember an argument over who would pay. I would buy. It's not even a big deal. And then guys will be like,
but with a lot of these girls, they are actually mooching off of you. And so, like, you're just giving away money for free to mooches.
okay, well, guess what? That's immediately a disqualifier, right? Like, if I've identified red flags with this chick that she's so weird and bizarre and messed up that she's mooching a meal off of me and not even really into the date, there's not going to be another date. Like, cross her off, right? So, like, lesson learned. Not a big deal. It's just bizarre that, like, on Twitter and in this domain, people will argue over anything and everything. The most idiotic things. Should a guy pay for the meal? Yeah, who cares? So, the Jack Sparrow archetype would just throw the gold coins down. He doesn't give a shit. It's not a big deal. And to a woman that exudes the confidence that, like, you're not hung up on little things. How are you going to be a good mate or a good partner if you can't handle and you get hung up on and lose your shit over something innocuous? It signifies a weak man and a weak character. And also, like, you ought to be able to make enough money that even if some girl was mooching a meal out of you, it's not a big deal. Like, so what? So you took one girl out and it didn't go well and you don't have another date. You don't call her again. It's just like, why is that? It's not a fight. It's not even worth having a fight over. I mean, in my lifetime, I probably have paid for 100 meals for dates. So what? None of them even, like, it doesn't even register as a problem. Like, so why would you even argue with someone? It's just bizarre. Like, people are, like, almost not people anymore. It's like humans aren't even humans anymore. They don't have normal human experiences, or it's just some kind of weird Mandela effect alternate universe. I'm joking, but halfway. Okay. So aloofness, carefree, fun. Okay, if you're black-pilled and miserable and whining and bitching, you cannot be aloof, carefree, and fun. And every girl likes dudes that are aloof, carefree, and fun. Pretty simple. So try to ingratiate that archetype. Other archetypes. Now, this is a funny one. And this one is going to be very relevant for theology bros and conspiracy bros. Okay. Now, in the movie Conspiracy Theory, I want to recommend you guys watch. It's a great conspiracy classic movie. If you've never watched Mel Gibson's Conspiracy Theory, I recommend watching it. And the reason I want you to watch it is that we're going to contrast some of the characters and their psyche and their modus operandi with others to see the good and the bad. So here is a bad character archetype, right? Jerry is a highly intelligent person, but Jerry has had, as we know from the movie, MK Ultra things happen to him. And that's unfortunate, right? It is. But the way that Jerry interacts almost entirely through the first 3/4 of the movie with Julia Roberts is utterly spurgy, idiotic, creepy, weird, and wrong. Okay? So you don't want Jerry game. The way that he interacts, and Mel Gibson plays this perfectly, right? Like he shows up one day at her office at some place and he's all spurgy and like all talking about conspiracies and acting like a loon, right? And I'm applying this to theology guys too, because apparently young guys don't know that you should not strike up a conversation with a girl at church and take her out on a date and start talking to her about the essence energy distinction. Okay? That is not what you should do. Because girls are not boys. Girls are not into the things that boys are into. And that's okay. So a lot of young guys, instead of bitching and whining and moaning and complaining, just accept biological reality as it is. You are never going to get girls interested in metaphysics, interested in your figurines, interested in war history, interested in male things. It's not going to happen, and that's okay. Women can be interested in women things and being women. That's the way it should be. You don't need a wife or a partner who is reading Thomas Aquinas. Okay? If you watched the Maya Ethan Hawke Flannery O'Connor movie Wildcat, you'll notice that Flannery O'Connor was cursed with being a woman who was kind of a tomboy who loved reading theology. Now, she's a great writer. She's amazing as a writer. Some of her short stories are some of the best. But her life was miserable, not just because of her physical illnesses, but because she wasn't feminine. And she wasn't able to really ever have a good connection between her and a man. I mean, obviously she wasn't the most physically attractive either, but she's an example of what I'm talking about from the girl side of how she just wasn't able to resonate with a guy because of all of her masculine characteristics. And I'm not saying, I mean, I'm glad that we have the Flannery O'Connor writings that we have. We wouldn't have those had she not been through that. But likewise, everybody's probably heard this. It's gone, like the story of the spiders, and somebody got their feelings hurt over this. This is so just like mind-blowingly effeminate and preposterous. When I think Jamie had a tweet talking about the story of a guy who liked a girl at church, and I don't even know who it is. And I'm going to tell a story because like you should be able to laugh at these things. And like the way that he approached the girl and spit game was to ask her what her favorite spider was. So the spider RIZZ did not go well. However, actually looking back, that might actually work nowadays. Like that's actually probably not a bad idea for spitting games. Like if you could actually play this right in a certain setting where you actually probably could ask a girl, "Hey, what's up? What's your favorite spider?" If you could play it off as like a funny thing, that might actually kind of work. But I guarantee you in this poor kid's situation, it was not that. And it came off as like literally the most spurgy thing ever. And Jamie's tweet talking about this story, which is a hilarious story, went viral. And all these people were, isn't that right? They were like bitching at you. There's nothing mean. Why are you being mean and making fun of this poor boy? Well, okay, look. You got to be able to be made fun of. You got to be able to be. I remember the first time we did blood sports. And it was the first time I'd ever been like in a live stream debate with 5,000 people watching live. And I saw the comments. And like almost all the comments within the JF debate, they were making fun of me. And they said everything imaginable about me. And that was the first time I'd ever seen, like, thousands of people are dissing me right now. And guess what? I'm okay. It didn't hurt me. I literally didn't even feel anything. I was a little nervous the first time you see thousands of people calling you everything. Of course, I ended up winning the debate, but still, it was a weird, novel experience for me to have 5,000 people largely making fun of me and calling me names. Now, I'm okay. Like, I made it through that. And if your psyche is so fragile that you can't laugh at yourself and laugh at, like, your ridiculous spider game that you tried to spit, like, you've got problems, man. The problem is not all the people. The problem is in you. Another great example of, like, an ultimate beta male. Remember the Star Wars kid? The Star Wars kid was that chunky dude who was acting like an idiot with a broom that he CGI'd a lightsaber onto, and he was, like, dancing around with the lightsaber, and he fell. It was like the first big viral video. Well, this guy could have actually ridden that, been famous and successful, but from day one all the way until now, he has been traumatized by the event, has always tried to get people to take the video down. Like, basically 20 plus years of whining, bitching, and complaining and crying, claims he's like some traumatized victim from a viral video that he made and put up and got mad because people laughed at him. That's the ultimate beta move. That is a preeminently weak man. Pathetic. Pitiful. And this is why instinctively I think jocks don't like nerds, and jocks make fun of nerds, is it's a filtering system actually to help the nerd. Now, women don't work this way because making fun of a woman is not going to inspire her to do better. It's going to hurt her feelings, right? Unless it's playful jabs, right? We're going to listen to this woman in a minute. She's going to talk about if a woman is flirting with you and she's playfully making fun of you or making jokes, that's a different thing. That's not what we're talking about, right? When guys want to spur another guy on to be better or to toughen up, we make fun of each other. Guys love to riff on each other. We love to make fun of each other. And it's a sign of, can this guy mentally take it, or is he mentally weak? I remember in high school, I had a friend who, for a long time, made fun of me. And we were pretty good friends, and I kind of put up with it, but sometimes it would really get on my nerves because he did it all the time. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but one day I realized, wait a minute, rather than me getting annoyed and bitching about that, why don't I use this in, like, mental judo as a way for me to think about getting better? Right? Like, I remember we played basketball, and he said something about, I don't know, something that I sucked at in basketball. I don't know. Right? But he would always make the joke about, I don't know, maybe it was my defense sucked or something. I don't know. Let's say that every time we play basketball, let's say he said, Jay Dyer who plays no defense, right? Let's say he said this like every day. All right, it's getting annoying, right? Well, finally I was like, all right, I'm going to play defense, and then there will be no cause for this, you see. So rather than getting mad and bitching and trying to have some, wuss fight or something, use that as a way to better yourself. Think about when people are dissing you, instead of being a wuss and being weak about it, use it as a way to better yourself. Or, again, this is a big one with young dudes and nerdy dudes, is envy. They're eaten up with envy. Instead of giving in to envy, think about how you can be better and more like the guy that you're envious of. And I remember, I think all of us have had temptations, and we've all at some point in our lives been envious or thought, well, yeah, I should have that. Why does he get that? That's something I should have. I remember one time, let me think, 19, maybe 20. I remember this dude that was involved in a campus ministry. I think his name was Mason, not a Freemason. His name was Mason, and I remember Mason had he was dating this really good-looking blonde girl that everybody in the campus ministry stuff liked, right? And Mason was a nice guy, but I didn't really think there was anything super special about Mason. But Mason ended up marrying, I think her name was Cindy or something. And, you know, I remember thinking, oh man, I was like, you know, I should have had Cindy. Why does Mason get her? He's freaking nerd. And so I had this temptation and this envious attitude because in that case, Mason actually possessed qualities that I didn't have. He wasn't like super alpha, but Mason was probably better with people. Mason was probably more financially stable. He had a good, high-paying job. You know, Mason had qualities I didn't have, but at that time, my initial immediate reaction was envy. And so what did I want to do? Well, I wanted to tear him down. Well, Mason doesn't blah, 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 and Mason blah, 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 blah. All of it was coming from envy. And one day I actually realized, I think it was when I was reading scripture, I was like, oh, I've been envious. It's not, Mason's not the problem, I'm the problem. And I got to cut the envy out. And all of us, I think, when we see somebody doing better than us, or having more success, or this or that, we're all tempted to be envious. Because we're all fallen, right? We're all susceptible, some of us to some vices over others, but I think every human being has the potentiality to be envious, just as much as they have the potentiality to be magnanimous, right? So, as you know, the way to combat a lot of the vices in our spiritual tradition is to fight it with the competing virtue. So if your sin in this case is being envious, I should have that. What she could, right? What's the solution to that? The solution is the complementary virtue of magnanimity, generosity. Instead of wanting and trying to take, you're giving. And many of the spiritual writers talk about the way to defeat those passions is the opposite virtue. And that's one example that I can recall where I was like, yeah, no, actually, it wasn't Mason that was the problem. It was me that was the problem. And I mean, I'm not saying that I've never been envious. I'm sure that there's other times where there's other people I'm sure I've been envious of, but that's the thing is like you overcome it with the opposing virtue. So young guys, don't be envious. Don't be haters. There's nothing more pathetic than people constantly complaining and hating on and whining about other people all the time. When I see Twitter, the reason that I have to try to discipline myself not to respond is because so many people in all these threads whining, complaining, and it's just a total waste of time. And does anyone actually think that whining on Twitter is going to do anything? Is it going to change anything? So not only is it wasting your time, it's wasting everyone else's time. All right, back to the archetypes. Thank you guys. We got to read a few super chats. You guys have been really generous, so we got quite a few here. Let me read some of these. Now, Hades Undead, he gets it. He sends $20. He says, should I precept my girlfriend on a first date? Is that RIZZ? That is not RIZZ. That is the wrong action. A first date should be lighthearted, casual, and fun. Okay? In fact, don't even go into talking about vast dramatic histories if you can, right? Don't voluntarily bring up all the things of your past dating and your past problems. It's supposed to be casual fun. You want to get to know this person and you can figure out usually pretty quickly whether or not this is somebody that you want to have another date with and try to progress to the next phase too, right? So if this is not somebody that you want to have a connection with, you're going to know that pretty quick, and you don't want to volunteer or get into a bunch of deep stuff that's not appropriate for a first date. Impropriety. It's not wise. But great question there, Hades. Riley GVP 6429. These are great tips. I shared them with my 22-year-old son, and that's referring to the previous video. Thank you so much. Without lies, Islam dies. $5. I feel RIZZ. Then you are getting what you're catching what I'm throwing. Old Man Jenkins, $3. Will dressing like the Joker bring me a lot of hoes? 2019 Joker. Actually, dressing like the Joker in the days of the Adam West Batman is what will get you the girls. Schmeven Schmirk, $20. I only wear Brooks Brothers button-ups and long sleeve shirts and slacks. Is that cool? I have a relative who maybe he's not anymore, but at one point he was like a super duper Brooks Brothers guy. I think if you're looking for like some kind of uppity city girl, maybe, but only wearing Brooks Brothers to me sounds a little boring, but maybe you're joking. One Shot A17, $5. Thank you for reminding me how cringe I used to be when I dressed in my teens. Those were dark cringe days that I managed to forget about until tonight. I think a lot of us go through cringe days, so it's okay. Again, back in the 90s, when I started high school, I had a bunch of slobby clothes, and then I realized I gotta go deck myself in Tommy Hilfiger, Nautica, and Polo if I wanted to have any chance talking to girls. And that was correct. Steve Grady, $10. The worst guys are the guys that wear all of these, buy all these official jerseys. Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, oh, great reminder. Worst example, okay? Who is the literal worst paragon of style? Worst famous person ever for style. Can anyone guess who it is? You got it, Kevin Smith. And I blame Kevin Smith for making jorts and jerseys some sort of like perennial thing. Wide world of jorts. Okay, here's Kevin Smith in the 90s when he was fat Kevin Smith, right? And he's got giant Jinko jorts on. And then here's present day Kevin Smith still with jorts on. This is the worst. Okay, but he's known for always wearing the jersey with the jorts. This is the worst possible style ever of all time. Here he is. Here's him in 2024. Again with jorts and jersey. Okay, Kevin Smith should never be forgiven for popularizing this look. And I would say to this day, a sizable portion of the male population still dresses and looks like Kevin Smith. So, Kevin Smith, fart upon you for all of the horror that you've given to this world for the last freaking 30 years. The Jersey guys go around with another man's name on their back like their high school girlfriends and boyfriends wearing his jersey. Exactly. Julio Merida, $25. Jay, have you heard of the channel Theoria Apophasis? Yes, I'm familiar with him from many years ago. I've never interacted with him, but I've seen his channel over the years. He is involved in Neoplatonism and rational field theory with proper explanations of the reality of magnetism, water, holography, electricity, and the potential for free energy. Okay, bye. Yes. And over the years, I have watched some of his videos. They are pretty fascinating. A lot of it is stuff that I just don't know much about. So I don't know a lot about magnetism and electricity and holography, but I'm sure he's got a lot of cool insights. Emperor Palpatine, $3. I noticed that when the fat acceptance movement came along, they were saying physical exercise is minimal in weight loss. Yeah, this is kind of like, well, actually their whole thing was to not care about weight loss. I fear that there is a push by social liberals to actually keep people fat, unmotivated, and unable to exercise. Oh, absolutely. No, you're talking to legit conspiracy Chad bro right here. You bet. Okay, we're not nerd conspiracy theorists. We're Chad nerds. And what that means is like, yes, we know that absolutely is a plan to keep people lazy, fat, dull, dumb, stupid. Absolutely, 100%. In fact, the movie Branded is actually about the conspiracy to do that. MKG, 5 Canadian. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It actually works both ways. That was something that we were talking about an hour ago, so I'm not sure which thing. Maybe when you're talking to girls. I can't... Unrose Rep, I can't read that. $10. This is a random one, but my 2 years of community college for construction management is going to be hard in the field, but eventually I want to join a union and manage the building and movie show sets. Well, more power to you. Good luck with that. I mean, I'm being serious. I'm not dissing you. I don't know anything about construction. I don't know anything about unions. So, hope that works out. Probably would be better off than a lot of the people getting college degrees, like the 4-year degrees. Chris, $50. One of the best things that my mom did was telling me at age 18 that she was going to start charging me rent, and I had to help pay for college. Now I am almost 30. I have a house, many assets, and I have money to send you for super chats. Well, thank you, Chris, to your mom, because without your mom, we would not have you sending the super chats. Prophetic 777 $10. Jay, do you have kids? Why not? What are you waiting for? I've addressed this many times. Thank you for your super chat. MKG Canadian $5. I think of a lot of guys now think that women act the way that they do on, say, the Whatever podcast or Fresh and Fit. However, most women out there are normal and looking for someone who is not abnormal. I would say that that's probably true. I mean, again, I've not interacted in the dating sphere in several years, so I don't know a lot about today's dating market from direct experience, obviously, but I would imagine that this is a little overblown. I can't imagine that all of the girls out there are exactly like the Whatever podcast. I would imagine that it's difficult, but the world is a big place. There's a lot of people out there. And not everybody is evil. Not everybody is bad. And not all things are bad. Not everything is a giant conspiracy. Not everything is blackpilling. And to get that attitude is, I think, only going to hurt you in the long run. Siege D, $2. Haha, all right, this is my kind of topic, he says. Ronald, $5. I presup my grandmother, and she will not bake chocolate chip cookies for me anymore. Do you have any advice? Presup her even harder. Unpros Rep, $2. Small talk is my problem, to be honest with you. Well, that is a challenge when you may not be in scenarios where you are meeting a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you work a 9 to 5 or a 40-hour, job, and you're not spending a lot of time interacting with people, and maybe your only interactions are in the evenings, going to the grocery, or I don't know, going to Walmart or something. Well, if that's the case, what I would say is set aside time then to go out and find situations where you can meet people and interact. Like I said, the coffee shop, or the next time you go out to eat, pay attention and see if there's a cute waitress. Next time you come in there to eat, maybe try to get her to be your waitress. Maybe you strike up a conversation with a waitress. I don't know, like, do people not do this? I know that when I was single back in my 20s and 30s, I probably had, throughout those decades, 10 dates with waitresses. I mean, if you are out in public and you have a cute waitress, start talking to her. Don't do this, however. If you're trying to spit game at a waitress, don't be a dork and crazy tip her, because that looks weird and needy. Tip her in a normal way, okay? And because the reason I say that is, like, let's say you're a dude who's not asked out a girl before, you're scared or whatever. the next time you're at a restaurant, you have a cute waitress, you and your buddy are out eating, you tell your buddy, oh, she's kind of cute. Your buddy says, oh, talk to her, man. So you strike up a conversation and you're going to ask her out, and she says, I don't know, I'll think about it. And then she goes back to ring up your tab, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to leave her $50 to show her that I like her. No, don't do that. Leave her just a normal tip, right? And yes, you should follow the standard advice of something like the movie Swingers. Do not call her the day that you get the number, dummy. I know this sounds kind of common sense, but if you just met your waitress and you're talking about going out on a date, do not text her that day or call her that day. You wait a while. And dudes, do not text walls of text. Okay? When I get dudes that text at me, walls of text, number one, I don't read it. Number two, it's feminine. Dudes text dude ways. Okay? Dudes don't use a bunch of emojis. Sometimes you can do it if you're in a hurry or something and it's your friend or your mom. Okay? Like, I reply to my mom with a thumbs up emoji or something. Okay, that's fine. But, like, if you're trying to meet a girl and set up a date or something, don't text her a bunch of emojis and weird shit. It's just, no, don't do that. These are, like, number one no-nos. Storm the Cat, $5. I saw a coyote yesterday. Oh, damn. I thought he was talking about Coyote Ugly. Vane, $5. So I cannot presup my grandmother's epistemic assumptions or my girlfriend, or excuse me, I misread that. I cannot presup the epistemic assumptions of my first date. If you want to ensure that there's not a second date, then yes. Gabe K, $5. What is a good horror movie to watch for, say, a second or third date? My wife and I watched The Possession, and it was bad. We are married, though. A horror movie for second or third date. What? Not yet. There's quite a few super chats. I haven't gotten to them all yet. So Jamie's trying to tell me to not forget super. There's a bunch of them. I'm not forgetting them. Let me think. Let's see. Horror movies. Let's see. A good scary movie for a second or third date. I did not like Oddity. Substance was gross. Apartment 7A was not bad. That could be a decent date movie. Nosferatu was gross. The Menu was a little too weird. Hereditary is a pretty good horror movie, but it might also be a little too much for second or third date. There haven't been very many good. Cabin in the Woods would be a good one. Cabin in the Woods is a pretty good movie. I liked Y2K. So if you're interested in 90s culture, 2000s culture, I thought Y2K was funny. Kyle Mooney is like the best last thing from Saturday Night Live that's still funny. And most of Kyle's skits are pretty funny. I think he's really good comedic writer. Jamie and I laughed at it. We thought it was pretty like horror comedy. The Hunt was actually better than I thought. That's a decent horror movie. Cabin in the Woods. Nick Cage's Arcadian was a decent horror movie. Long Legs. There you go. Watch Long Legs. There's a great horror movie for second or third date. So interesting question. Lumbago, $5. I think a lot of guys overthink how to start improving. I think you're right. I don't think you have to overthink this, right? Like a lot of the basics that we're talking about, they're kind of common sense, right? Like fix your fucked up teeth. Don't be fat. Don't stank. Don't stank like ass. Be fun and carefree and aloof. Like these are some basics. Don't dress like a damn slob or a kid. And we're going to look at the worst elements of the worst archetype here in a second. I got a whole list of all the stuff to avoid. And we're almost done with the archetypes. Let's see. Did I have any more archetypes? I don't think so. Now we got a huge super chat. Every day I'm struggling. Every day I'm struggling. He sends a $400 super chat. Whoa, dude. Jay, I'm going in for a callback audition to be a lead in a movie opposite John Turturro. Oh yeah, this man right here. He's rolling big, baby. I hope you get it, dog. I've been an actor for 8 years, but I'm becoming Orthodox this Pascha. Hey man, that's amazing. That's great to hear. This would be my first job post-conversion. Do you have any advice on how to spiritually prepare? Quote all of John Turturro's lines from Big Lebowski right back at him. No, I'm saying that's kind of weird shit I would do. How to spiritually prepare for a callback audition for a big lead role. I'll tell you what my favorite thing is for all those types of spiritual preparations. And I'm not your spiritual father, so I can't give you spiritual advice. But my favorite thing, bar none, for any kind of spiritual prep is just simply to pray the Psalms. That's it. And if it's something big and heavy, I would pray a lot of Psalms. That's it. This is sort of in line with your comment of corresponding virtues to vices. Yeah. Yeah, man. Fall in love with praying the Psalms. Crypto Crusader, but thank you so much for that massive fat super chat, by the way. Crypto Crusader, $2. How many dates do I wait until I pre-sub her? Never. I'm just kidding. It depends. Like, you could do this theoretically in a playful way. Let me give an example where you could do this. So, previously, way before I ever knew Jamie or anything like this, I dated a girl who was Catholic, but was interested in becoming an evangelical when we met, right? So she had been attending an evangelical church, and we went on several dates, and I met her at a coffee shop. Okay, so again, this is just a memory that I have of one way that guys could meet girls, not in a bar setting, but in a more innocent day setting, right? I remember walking into a Starbucks one day with no intention other than to just get a coffee and read my Bible. And I met her that day through striking up a conversation because I was reading my Bible in the coffee shop. And so we were not right for each other. That was not who I was supposed to be with. And thank God we didn't get married. But we did have a 4-year relationship after that. And what happened in that case was I was able to get her eventually interested in Orthodoxy. So even though I didn't become Orthodox at that time, she ended up being Orthodox. And that ended up being perfect for her. She found the right Orthodox man for her later on down the road. And that all happened perfectly in divine providence. But in that case, I was able to gradually sort of move her in the direction of the theological position that I believed, loosely speaking, right? Or was moving towards. So I think what can happen in these scenarios is, let's say you're a young guy and you meet a girl who's a Baptist. Okay, a lot of these young nerdy just,
I won't date her. She's a Baptist. She's a heretic.
dude, come on. All you got to do is think about, if you're a strong, reasoned, masculine leader, you can bring her towards orthodoxy. And if over a span of time she refuses, well, then you can move on. But like, to throw everything out from the get-go, I've heard a lot of dudes in the last, say, 2 years, younger dudes, right? I hear them saying stuff like, oh, I can't go out to the gym because the girls are wearing tight clothes, and then I can't go there. Oh, and I don't go there because the girls there are this and that. So there's all these excuses. And in their mind, it's just kind of like a way to check out. And, well, everywhere is evil, and all the places are bad, and all the girls are evil. And so I am excused. And there's no, I don't have to, there's no good girls. It's like, Okay, but this can't be the case, right? I mean, it just can't. Like, there have to be cute waitresses, cute Baptist girls, cute baristas, cute checkout people, okay? That has to still exist, right? We're not in the total FEMA dystopia yet, right? It's not that bad yet. Maybe we're not far from that, but come on. Seriously? I find it hard to believe that it's that bad to where, and a lot of these guys are just making up excuses because they want to be, lazy or whatever. Like somebody was saying, oh, I can't go to the gym to meet a girl or talk to a girl because at the gym, girls wear tight clothes. And it's like, well, dude, I mean, we're in this weird culture where you're not going to find a beige trad wife at the gym to begin with, okay? You're probably not going to find a beige trad wife. Especially not out there in the wild. Okay? So, the best bet for young dudes is to find a somewhat pious Baptist or evangelical girl or even a Catholic girl and convert her. And if you're a decent enough dude who knows this stuff, you can do that. I don't mean through debating with her. That's not how parents and girlfriends convert. What have we been telling you guys forever? Don't debate your parents. Well, guess what? Rule number 2, don't debate your girlfriend or your prospective date. Do not talk about theology on your first date. Do not talk about conspiracies on your first date. Unless you want to not have a second date. And I'm halfway being tongue in cheek. Like, if you don't like this girl and you want out of it, then maybe you should talk about conspiracies and theology because most likely then it's an easy out. You won't have to talk about, you won't have to have a second date or plan it. She will not be interested easily. Okay. But I'm saying this because I'm telling you guys, I've talked to a lot of young dudes in the last 2 years and I know how they're thinking and I know all the excuses that they're making and all the stuff they're saying. There's no good girls. Well, I know in the Bible Belt, there's a ton of Baptist evangelical girls. So, well, they're heretics. Well, convert them, dude. What are you talking about? Okay, I think we've got our archetypes. I had one more archetype. Yeah, one more archetype, and then we're going to go to this thing. So we do not want to be Jerry. Oh, the other thing with Jerry from Conspiracy Theory, this is a super spurgy beta. Although, ironically, Jerry is actually kind of an alpha, but he's like traumatized, and so he's beta. I think by the end of the movie, we think, he's kind of gets healed. But don't be Mel Gibson from Conspiracy Theory. Be Mel Gibson from Braveheart, right? Again, these are kind of obvious characteristics of a masculine hero archetype, right? Back when Hollywood made somewhat masculine type hero movies, right? Obviously Mel Gibson made probably the best one with Braveheart, one of the best movies. They don't really make movies like this anymore, obviously, but yeah, he's a noble, heroic, masculine, fighting, stands up to corruption, pretty much all the classic masculine archetypes, right? I can't think of a better movie dude archetype to shoot for, right? And remember, in the case of our examples of James Bond, there was just certain characteristics that we wanted to pull from Bond. Not every characteristic, right? We don't want Bond in the sense of the completely empty nihilistic psychopath. Okay. That's not ultimately going to serve you in the long run. All right. We don't want the lackadaisical drunkenness, say, of Jack Sparrow. Right. So there's bad sides to these characters. In the case of Mel Gibson's portrayal of William Wallace, there's not really many bad qualities. He's pretty much the ultimate sort of hero. The men look up to him. I can't remember. Does he sleep with the French chick? I'm trying to think if he even has any. Maybe he's a little too much of a hero, right? Maybe that's the only criticism is like, I can't remember if he sleeps with Sophie Marceau or not. But We'll give him a pass because, you know, he's like the ultimate sort of alpha dude. And then, last archetype. We got a couple comparisons here, right? So, Lloyd Dobler. And Lloyd is a good one because if you've never seen Say Anything, you should see it. It's number one, Cameron Crowe, classic 80s movie. And what's interesting, as I've thought about all this for a long time, is that John Cusack's character is actually totally Sigma, if you think about it, right? First of all, he doesn't care at all about what anyone else in high school thinks. He's totally himself. He's not interested in the stuff that the rest of the high school people are into. He's not a jock. However, he's super fit and he's into MMA before anyone else. This is way before MMA and, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and fighting and all. Lloyd wants to be a kickboxer, which is very out of the norm for the 80s, right? But there's one problem with Lloyd, and Lloyd's one mistake, even though he's a natural Sigma dude, he's confident, he's fun, he's funny, he's carefree, but when he meets Iona Sky and falls for her, right, she becomes everything to him, to the extent that he's then willing to change all of his future plans to follow her to England. That is Lloyd's major, massive mistake, right? He changes his career plans for her, his whole future for her. So although he's been super, and by the way, the other thing, as you guys know, is that he, in order to try to get her back, does the infamous, famous, one of the most famous movie scenes of all time, right? Standing outside her window with a giant boombox playing In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel. Okay? This is only in Hollywood. Okay? If you are outside of a girl's window with a boombox trying to get her back, you've already lost. No. This is only in movie world does this exist. Okay? And so Lloyd is actually a great archetypal Sigma character who loses all of his Sigma RIZZ by completely changing from being the guy that Iona Sky originally likes, right? Because she's this preppy valedictorian chick who is supposed to like, you know, the jock or the valedictorian dude or whatever. She's going to some fancy private prep school or whatever. You know, she's not supposed to like Lloyd Dobler. But all the traits that Lloyd has that she likes, he eventually sacrifices and loses them all. And I think at the end of the film, when you see Lloyd on the plane with her, we kind of get the impression that this is not going to work out. Because he's basically surrendered and given away all the things that she liked about him. Do not be the Sigma who loses his RIZZ and becomes some sort of, it's almost like he's worshiping. It's like an idolatry. It's like he's worshiping the Sigma to Simp pipeline. Exactly. It's exactly what is the tragedy of Lloyd Dobler. Okay, last archetype. We did, I think we got all those. No, last one, yes. If you've not seen this movie, I do recommend it for dudes. It is not an easy movie. It is a hard to watch movie, but it is worth watching. And it is Blue Valentine. Maybe some of you have seen it or heard of it. And we're going to contrast two different versions of Ryan Gosling. Okay. Blue Velvet. Now, the Ryan Gosling Blue Velvet is not you don't hate the guy, right? He's this sort of super kind, generous hipster guy who actually has some talents. He's kind of a funny guy. And he has this crush on Michelle Williams. And, you know, he does this thing here where he stands outside the shop she works at, and he's come up with this little ditty where he's flirting with her and trying to get her to go out because he's written this little serenade on a ukulele, right? And I mean, okay, maybe in the 2000s this would have worked on some kind of like city hipster girl, but like don't do anything like this nowadays. This would never work. So guys, don't treat this like some kind of Spurg science experiment where you're going to go sing some gay song on a ukulele to a chick. She'll just think you're crazy and call the police. So only in the 2010s in a hipster city setting would this maybe work. Anyway, so this ends up, I'm not going to spoil the movie because they end up being together. And they have a long relationship. But, like, let me put it this way. In a way more extreme version of Lloyd Dobler. And I would not class Ryan Gosling's character in this movie as alpha or sigma at all. He's a decent enough hipster dude, but the problem is that he becomes ultimate beta simp, and that's what the movie's about. Hence it's a blue Valentine and not a Valentine. It's a sad Valentine. And I'm going to tell you to watch it because as a dude, everything that he does is the wrong move. That's why this movie is instructive. And I remember watching it when it came out, and I was like, I'll never forget this movie. This is a very instructive movie. Even if they didn't intend it to be instructive, like, this movie ends up being very instructive. And, like, I'm not going to say what happens because you need to watch it, but, like, although you feel for Ryan Gosling as he's making every one of these mistakes, and although what Michelle Williams does is not right, it's kind of like, bro, yeah, she did you wrong, but you did everything possible to make it worse. You see what I'm saying? Did I cry? No, I didn't cry about Ryan Gosling losing his girlfriend, but that's funny. Blue Valentine is the common trope for guys. What does that mean? You mean that's the experience that guys have of losing girlfriends? I don't know about that. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Emma Life, Texas. That's a good way to put it. It's not a romance. So people are missing. This is not a rom-com. It's not a romance. This is a dark drama. Okay, so you guys are misunderstanding. This is not a hipster love story. This is a tragedy in like a Shakespearean tragedy sense. Okay. Okay, now we're going to contrast that with a different Ryan Gosling. And this is the Ryan Gosling in Drive. Okay. The literal absolute opposite. Drive is a great movie. This is what helped to kick off the entire synthwave trend, if you remember, in the early 2010s. I'm not a huge fan of Nicholas Refn because he tends to make these nihilistic movies. I know a lot of the audience over here is split on Only God Forgives. But I think everybody has to agree that Nicholas Refn's Drive is a really good movie. It's an excellent, excellent movie. And probably one of the last eras of movies where there was a kind of an alpha trend still going on. I mean, I know there's John Wick, but John Wick is so almost fantastical and fictional that it's not even real. You know what I mean? At least... I mean, James Bond is Hollywoodish and fantastical, but at least there's a little more reality with Bond than there is with like John Wick is just completely not real. But I mean, I think Ryan Gosling's character in Drive is just the exact opposite of the character in Blue Valentine, right? I'm not telling you to go be a vigilante, but I'm just saying like that dude is just doesn't give a damn, right? He's and it's funny because who is this chick in this? I always forget her name. She's like, I always get her mixed up with Michelle Williams. Who's that girl, Jamie? The one that I always get mixed up with Michelle Williams. She's actually in Drive. Michelle Williams is in Blue Valentine, and she's in Drive, but I always forget her name. She looks just kind of like her. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just funny to me that, like, in Blue Valentine, he's losing the chick that kind of looks exactly like the chick that he's helping in Drive. Yes, Carey Mulligan and Michelle Williams. I always get them mixed up. Anyway, yes, thank you guys. Appreciate that. Yeah, isn't John Wick like a comic booky thing anyway? I mean, I'm just saying that, like, at least the only action movies I can think of, like, so there you got Jason Statham, The Expendables, and John Wick. Like, that's the last of male action hero movies. That's it. Like, that's gone. But it still existed in the 2010s, and maybe Drive was kind of the last of that. And kind of in the same vein, too, of I remember this scene. There's a scene in The Recruit, which is pretty funny, where if you never watched it, it's worth watching just because it's one of the first movies that the CIA openly talked about consulting on. And in the movie, when they bring the recruits to Langley or to the farm or whatever, they have all these training missions and things they have to go through. And one of them is that Colin Farrell has to go and learn game and learn to interact with and meet women at a bar. And so this is when they're all still in training. This is it right here, right? Al Pacino says, okay, your mission, they think they're going into some fight or something. He's like, oh, your mission is you have to come out with a girl's phone number. And they're like, what? And so, again, I know that we're not spies, but I'm trying to tell dudes, like, maybe try to think of having this kind of a mindset, right? Like, the way that Colin Farrell's mindset and attitude is in movies like The Recruit, okay? And it's kind of a stupid movie. It's worth watching from a geopolitical perspective, but I've always just thought it was funny because, and by the way, I've actually read this as a real thing, right? So if you actually were recruited into CIA, British intelligence for field operations, you do actually have to learn how to go out and get a person's phone number. Right. A crazy pimp on a propeller, $1. Do you have thoughts on Mormon maxing or Muslim maxing? Going to Mormon temples and mosques to meet women? That does, again, why you want to do that? Go Baptist max and evangelical max. And if you have to, maybe Catholic max. I would do that before going to some damn crazy Mormon Muslim stuff. Vane 199. Women like you if they think you don't give an F about them. That's the earlier discussion that we had about the archetype of the aloof Captain Jack Sparrow, right? So remember when we were talking about, maybe you weren't here yet, Vane, but earlier we mentioned some of the archetypes from movies that can help us. And one of those was some of the characteristics of Jack Sparrow, obviously not like being a drunk, but the sort of lackadaisical, carefree, fun aloofness of Jack Sparrow. And your homework, guys, is to watch Blue Valentine and then contrast that with either Ryan Gosling in Drive or Mel Gibson's Braveheart, right? Contrast these two guys. And it's not rocket science, right? Obviously, the Drive or the Mel Gibson is what we want to shoot for as a loose guide versus being like, damn, Ryan Gosling in Blue Valentine. Or even Lloyd Dobler in Say Anything. That's another good one. So that's your homework. Now, last thing we're going to look at here before we call it a night. This went on way longer than I thought it was going to go I know we already talked to Dick at the beginning about looks and diet and health, right? So obviously you want to be in the gym. Obviously you want to be fixing if you got messed up facial features, right? Not going crazy with like weird Botox and whatever crazy stuff, but minimal types of things if you've got something really wrong with you, right? Like if you got jacked up, messed up teeth or something, you got to get that fixed. Hands down. Absolutely. And then obviously those are the other things we already covered, right? Like we already talked about diet. We talked about you got to get fit, all that stuff for sure. If you're fat, like you don't have to be a bodybuilder. As this chick's going to point out, I don't remember if it's this video or some other video. Like, girls are not actually expecting every dude to be a super jacked, like, massive Arnold dude. I mean, Jamie says it, this chick says it too in her videos. That's for dudes. I mean, I don't get it. Like, I think it's nice. It's good to be, have muscles and be fit. But, like, dudes that are into being, like, super jacked, to me, it's weird. I'm not into it. Maybe there's some chicks that like that. To me, it's like dudes it's like it's dudes and other dudes. Like I don't know. That's like women with shoes. Dudes don't care about that. Okay. Women are wearing shoes so that other women see and talk about shoes. Like women have a shoe language and universe that guys are not in. Okay. We don't know this. For dudes, shoes are shoes. And but women are have this cryptocurrency language about shoes that just is totally foreign to dudes. Likewise, dudes that are super into being mega buff dudes, I don't get it. It's not me, but whatever. Some dudes, and maybe some chicks like that. I don't know. I've always found that, as I think she says in some of her other videos, I don't even know who this woman is. I just happened to cross her video today. And I thought this was a good one for the young dudes who are wanting to go out on a date. They've never asked their girl out. You want to experiment with this. You got to do it. You got to get over your fears. Well, one thing that's going to help you is, as we mentioned, women are really good at knowing and seeing micro expressions, right? And we're not going to be spurgs about this, okay? The point of this is not to get you over analyzing and obsessing on how the girl is moving her hands and where did she place herself? Is she leaning in or is she leaning away from me? Is she don't spurg about this. But there are going to be indicators that girls naturally do as part of their biology as females, where they will indicate to you that they are interested in you. And guys don't really think this way. So a lot of guys don't know about this. And that's why it's helpful to actually understand this. This is actually something I've actually read quite a bit about. I do know about this topic. And there are actual studies on this. This has actually been studied at a biological level universally, that females, whether human or even other species, they will actually do certain bodily movements and actions to indicate interest and approval for the opposite sex. Now, I know that for women, you're like, guys don't know this. Guys don't know this. Girls, you inhabit a different world from dudes. And a lot of guys don't know this. For example, an easy one. Let's say you're on a date with a girl, and it's the first date, and you guys are talking. If she's laughing and smiling and playing with her hair, that is a universal immediate signal that she's interested in you. Doesn't mean that you're soulmates. Okay, we're not some kind of weird internet cult twin flames crap. No, we're not talking about that. They're just indicators that there is a bodily expression of what's internal and going on, that she does find you interesting, find you attractive, and she likes having the conversation with you. Right? If her body posture was removed and cold and static, right? That might indicate that she's not interested in you. If you are telling a story and you rest your hands and she intentionally reaches out and touches your hand, those are signs that she perhaps is interested in you. Now, some people are just very friendly, so it might not necessarily mean, okay, that she likes you or...
I went on a first date with a girl and she touched my hand. We're going together.
No, don't be a spurg, okay? Don't be like that. That's the worst. But the hair flip, this is like, you know, biological beings like trying to attract a mate. It's very simple. So this girl's video, we're going to comment on some of this, and then I think we'll call it a night. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Something out of the pale of what we usually do. But so many nerdy dudes out there that need some serious help out there. We gotta get more Wall Smoths out there for the Kevin James Hitch boys out there. Caleb, $10. I'm going to attend my first liturgy tomorrow. I'm a little nervous. Any advice on what I should do? Nope. Just go and follow the instructions. That's it. Don't be nervous. Look, guys, we got to get over being nervous. Think about the men of yore. Men that went into battle with swords and got their arms chopped off. And dudes that rode horses into a joust. Do you think those dudes were nervous? I'm sure they were. But they were courageous. And you're nervous about going to church? I'm not dissing you. I'm challenging you. Guys, we got to get over these pitiful fears. Not you, Caleb. I'm saying in general. I'm scared to talk to the girl. Dude, come on. Come on. This is why I was talking to the other stream about like guys that have never been in a fist fight. How have you never been in a fight? Like, didn't every dude in high school run into some butthole that they couldn't stand and you end up in a fight because you talk shit for a whole semester and then you just go fight? And then dudes get over it. They usually end up being friends. Like, every guy should go through middle school, high school fist fighting. Somebody, I mentioned this the other day, and Slowboy was like, oh, well, they'll call the cops on you. Well, I know that. They call the cops on us in high school too. But what you do is you would have the fist fight at Arby's or behind the Walmart later that night, right? And then if the guy didn't show up, everybody knew he was a wuss. And then he gets made fun of for the next 3 weeks at school because he didn't show up for the fight. Well, my mom would have let me go to Walmart. Yeah, sure. You just didn't want to fight. You got scared, right? Anyway. All right, so let's listen to some of these, and then we'll call it a night.
We're going to be talking about subtle things women do to see if men are interested. Understanding whether a woman is interested in you can sometimes feel like trying to read between the lines. Women aren't always bold or direct when it comes to expressing their feelings. Often they rely more on subtle actions, hints, and nonverbal cues to communicate their interest in you.
Now, guys, nerdy guys, young guys, you are going to have to accept this. I know a lot of you guys think,
Well, that doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't she just say what she's feeling?
it doesn't matter if it makes sense. It doesn't matter if you don't understand it. This is how it is. Women like the subtlety, the flirting, the stages to things. Thus, your logical approach of,
On the first date, I'm going to ask her my questionnaire. She is going to be interrogated to see if she is a fitting wife for me.
no. You got it all wrong. There has to be stages and build up. You can't go from 0 to 100 unless you just immediately want to strike out. Right? So, again,
Well, I don't like this. This isn't fair.
it doesn't matter whether you think it's fair. This is how it is. And this is the biology and the nature of women. So you either have to reconcile with that and adapt accordingly, or you check out. And a lot of dudes do check out.
These behaviors are often intentional, offering her a way to gauge your response without putting herself in a vulnerable position. So in today's video, we're breaking down some of the most common and often overlooked ways that women show interest in a man. By recognizing these subtle signals, you'll avoid missing opportunities. So let's get right into it. Okay, the first subtle thing that women do is create opportunities to be together. A woman who is interested in a man will often take the initiative to create opportunities to spend time together. This might include suggesting something casual like grabbing coffee, inviting him to join her and her friends for a group outing, or even asking for his help with something like fixing a minor problem, teaching her.
So, guys, be aware that if you are noticing that type of a signal, that was kind of an obvious one, right? Like, again, here's the key thing to remember though with this kind of stuff. A lot of nerdy dudes and spurgy dudes, they will immediately assume too much. Okay, so not in every case is she necessarily doing that because she likes you. She might be setting up a situation to be around you to see if she likes you, right? So sometimes guys will jump the gun and assume way too much and assume that the girl is really into them when she may not be at that level or that stage. She may just be feeling it out and seeing if she's interested in or wants to progress to the next level of knowing you. So if you begin to see these indicators, do not jump into thinking that, oh, she likes me, she has a crush on me. You don't know that yet.
To do something, or even giving her advice. These moments might seem small or coincidental, but they're often intentional. Women do this because they want to gauge how much effort a man is willing to make to connect with them. It's not just about testing interest, but also about building comfort and familiarity. By creating these low-pressure opportunities, she's signaling that she values his company and wants to see if he feels the same way. Now, on a deeper level...
Now, this is really important, too, because a lot of guys want to rush things and they want to get, to level 100 from immediate. All of that signifies desperation, social awkwardness, and just weird creepiness, right? Like immediately saying at the beginning of the date, like this guy did in this example of, I'm interested in 10 children and I'd like to know if that's where you are. Like that's not appropriate for the first time you're meeting somebody. It's just weird, right? Even if that is your long-term goal, you want 10 kids, that's fine. But it's not appropriate when you're first talking to somebody. It's just freaking weird.
Here, creating these opportunities is also a way for women to minimize vulnerability. Rather than directly asking about his feelings, which can feel a little bit risky and bold, setting up time together allows her to observe his actions and behaviors more organically. For her, it's a safer, less confrontational...
Yeah, and also, like, it's okay to be in situations where you're around people for a few times even before you move to asking them out or, progressing, right? That's okay. A lot of times, successful relationships are people who met in friend groups. And they met and lasted because they hung out enough times before they went to the date stage, right? It can happen both ways. There's no ironclad laws here, like you can't ask a girl out and it produce a relationship. But a lot of times it's that you've been around this person for a while at work or in a friend setting or whatever, and then it progresses, and that's okay. Just point being, guys, you don't have to like rush and make it like something super quick. And a lot of the stuff I'm telling you, like I've made these mistakes before. I've like said, I've laid down all my cards, after too soon in dating people and stuff like that. I'm talking about when I was younger, right? I've made these kinds of mistakes too. So if you are a young guy and you are beginning to go out on dates and let's say you make some big mistake and you spurg out or whatever, it's okay, right? Don't be too hard on yourself. There will be another one.
Way to get clarity about where she stands to him. And for all of you guys watching, I think it's helpful to recognize these gestures for what they are, a sign that she's interested and looking to build a connection with you. Now, if you're interested in her too, accepting these opportunities and showing enthusiasm about it is key to letting her know that you are on the same page. Okay, my next point here is she teases or lightly jokes. When a woman teases or lightly jokes with a man, it's often her way of testing the waters. Playful banter really helps her.
Yeah, and that one's kind of obvious. I think we mentioned it earlier. Like, this is not where you diss a girl in order to teach her a lesson in the sense of like really degrading someone. That's not going to work with a girl, right? So the way bros work, where you constantly make fun of a bro to get the bro to be more of a bro, like that doesn't work in the domain of females. But that's not the same thing as playful banter and mild nags that are joking and playful. Like, that stuff is fun. Jamie and I make jokes about each other all the time. We have fun. That's what she's talking about. And that kind of stuff is a sign or a signal of interest or indicating that she likes you. This one is important here.
Rely on body language to gauge a man's true feelings, as it can reveal more than just words. She'll watch for cues like leaning in, maintaining eye contact, or mirroring her movements. These signs show interest, comfort, and engagement, while more closed-off posture or avoidance might signal disinterest. What men may not realize is that women also look for signs of nervousness. A little fidgeting can actually be endearing, showing her that you care, but excessive avoidance might suggest insecurity.
There you go. And this applies to all the other signs of spurgy nerdiness. Walking like you have something in your butt, like you're on some sort of Krellboy motorcycle. Acting weird, talking about inappropriate things at the first date, right? Just don't do that stuff.
It's also checking for attraction. Lingering eye contact or leaning in closer can signal a genuine interest. Body language is also going to help her feel safe and build trust with you.
Oh, this is another one that just came to mind. Looking a person in the eye. A lot of weird, spurgy young people cannot look people in the eye. And I don't know if that's like the tism or what's going on, but you're going to have to overcome that, right? And so, especially if you're on a date or you're going to walk up to someone and ask them out, like, you need to be able to make eye contact. It shows that you're confident, that you're a normal person, you can communicate. You're not a weirdo who's like, can't look people in the eyes. That's just weird, right? So we want to eliminate all of the things that are spurgy and weird. And I'm telling you, man, there's a giant section of the audience of dorky Christians and spurgs and ortho nerds and conspiracy tards who really need to hear this stuff because they are insufferable.
I think open, respectful cues reassure her that you're engaged. And for all of you guys watching, I think small adjustments in posture, body language, and the attention that you're giving her can communicate interest.
I forgot. Posture is a big one, right? So, like, you're not going to be, like, sitting there like some kind of slumped over weirdo, right? You sit up. You have the gait that we talked about, like Bond has when he walks in a room. He does not walk into a room like a spurg, you see. That's the same type of thing that we're talking about.
More clearly than even words can sometimes, so just something to remember. Okay, the next thing women do is they will subtly mention future plans. When a woman casually brings up future plans, it's often a way to test your level of interest and initiative. For example, she might mention wanting to try a new restaurant, attend a concert, or check out some local event. While it might seem like small talk, she's watching to see if you take the hint and express interest in joining her or suggest making it happen together. Women do this because it's a subtle, low-pressure way of gauging your willingness to make an effort. If you respond enthusiastically or take the opportunity to plan something, it's going to signal to her that you are interested and you're paying attention. What matters is how you respond.
Now, this is another one that's kind of obvious, right? But also don't jump to conclusions. Just because you get a compliment does not necessarily mean some chick's after you. She may just be being friendly, but you can also read that as a possibility, a doorway that's opening up to something next, something beyond, right? These are indicators, not proofs, right? So these are signs or indicators. But I know how dudes think, and I know a lot of nerdy dudes are going to think, I have a checklist, and I've checked off 3 of the 10. That means she is in love with me. No, it doesn't mean that.
When a woman compliments you, whether it's about your style, your sense of humor, or something unique that she's noticed, it's rarely just a casual comment. Compliments are often a way of creating a connection and gauging your interest in return. She's paying attention not just to your words, but how you respond to her. Do you smile and accept it confidently? Do you downplay or deflect it? Or do you reciprocate with a compliment of your own? Women do this because how you handle a compliment reveals a lot about your personality and your confidence. A genuine thank you paired with a smile shows self-assurance.
And again, this is actually good advice because to act weird about compliments is also can be a sign of weirdness or something off with you, right? So the best way to handle that is be, oh, thanks, appreciate that, right? Not to act weird about it, and not to necessarily say the exact,
Oh, I like your brains too. You think I'm smart? I like you too, because you also think that you are smart. That means we're both smart together.
like, no, right? In other words, it needs to be something natural and not forced. So if someone compliments you, it's just awkward to immediately compliment them back, right? Maybe wait till later on in the conversation if you say something nice. But also don't overly compliment people that you don't know much about or that you just met. That would also be weird, right? Like, first time you're on a date, right? I just think you're really beautiful. No, that's not appropriate. It's impropriety. It signifies a weird kind of simpy, desperate energy if it's the first time that you met somebody. And, you know, the better that you can sort of play it off like you're having a good time and you're interested, you know, we'll see. A lot of we'll sees. This, you know, in other words, like, if she says, well, I'd love to go out again, you'd be like, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, we'll see what's going on this week. Don't immediately give the impression that everything that I hoped for, all of my dreams came true tonight because you said you wanted a second date. That's just crazy, right?
While brushing it off or making a self-deprecating comment might suggest insecurity. She's probably going to...
The reason for that, by the way, is that would indicate to her that you don't have other things going on, right? You don't want to give the impression that you have nothing going on in your life and you are eager for the possibility of a second date, right? So in her mind, she's thinking, okay, wait a minute. This is a guy who we had a good time on the first date and he doesn't have anything else going on to the extent that he can immediately plan a second date when I haven't even told him when. Right? So let's say she's giving you the indication that there's going to be a second date. She wouldn't mind doing another thing. And you immediately jump to it because you're so excited and you're so nerdy and spurgy and happy to have somebody likes me. Someone likes me. Right? It comes off pitiful. Well, do you have other things going on in your life? She wants to think, yes. What girl would want to marry a guy who has nothing going on in his life? Or want to even have a second date? No, right? So don't lay down all of your cards even within the first few days. Let things flow naturally, man. Don't be a spurg.
Be looking for a reaction that feels warm and engaging, as this is going to give her insight into how comfortable you are with yourself as well. What men might not know is that compliments are also a subtle way for a woman to express interest without being overly forward. It's her way of showing admiration while giving you an opening to reciprocate if you're interested too. If she notices you're receptive, it encourages her to continue building the connection with you. And pretty obviously here, a woman's compliment is also a way to make you feel special and stand out. This is a sign that she's invested enough to notice these little things and wants to see if you value her.
So I said, what if I actually have nothing going on in my life? Well, you're not going to let her know that, right? So that's rule number one here at this point. California Prepper, $5. Have you seen the foot relic water clip making the rounds with Protestants? I have no idea what that is. No. Foot relic water clip. Maybe on the next theology stream we can talk about that. Intel Wild, $5. Andrew Wilson, Rob, Jim Bob are true conservative goats. Who's Rob? Not sure who Rob is.
Opinion in return. For men, I think the key here is to accept compliments with gratitude and confidence. If you're also interested in her, use this as an opportunity to reciprocate and build a stronger connection. It's a small gesture that can completely open the door to something much deeper. And lastly here, she introduces subtle physical touches. When a woman introduces light physical touches, such as a casual hand on your arm, a playful tap on your shoulder, or brushing against you while talking, it's often a way of testing boundaries and gauging your interest.
Yes. So there you go. Some easy indicators that a girl is interested in you, or you might want to, if she's sending the signs, for example, she's wanting you to ask her out, right? And guess what? Let's say you misread the signs and she's not actually wanting that, and maybe you misread and you jumped the gun and you asked her out and she said no. Well, guess what? Now you've had the experience of getting turned down, and guess what? You're still alive and you're still okay, and you're not going to cry because you're a dude. Right? You've had a normal human man experience of getting turned down. So what? Okay, as we close it up tonight, I want to remind you, head on over to chalk.com. I've got my list of the characteristics that are the ultimate terrible archetype. Okay? All the things that we want to avoid as our final discussion point here. But before we do that, I want to remind you to head on over to chalk.com, CHOQ.com, the best in supplementation, bar none, out there. They're an awesome based company. They've been a long-time supporter of us over here at Jay's Analysis. I take chalk on the regular, especially the Tonkat Elite, which is proven in peer-reviewed studies to boost testosterone. You can go read about that over at the website right here. I recommend that male vitality sack right there. You're going to get that at an even better discount than $122. It'll be coming on the regular if you're interested in it. Use the promo code JAY44LIFE. That's J44LIFE to get 44% off all those great products. But it's not just for dudes. There's also stuff for the ladies as well. There's the female vitality stack over here. But you don't have to buy the whole group together stack. You can also buy individual products like the Tonkat Elite if you're a dude. You can get that coming on the regular right there. Again, JAY44LIFE, J44LIFE at chalk.com, CHOQ.com. And if you just want to test it out, you can just use the promo code JAY40 to get 40% off. That's J40, JAY40 to get 40% off. It's not a recurring subscription in that way. But you can, of course, cancel at any time if you use the JAY44LIFE. All right, last bit here. Many people in our domain, as we said, are dorky, they're nerdy, they're Debbie Downers, they're super self-righteous, just annoying, insufferable people. And they're not fun, they're not funny, they're not interesting, and they're black-pilled, and that's all the stuff we want to avoid. But what's the ultimate bad archetype for a dude? It is the man-child. And that's what I came up with, and Jamie and I together came up with, as the ultimate archetypes to avoid. So let's see. What are those characteristics? Well, the man-child is no fun. He is black-pilled. He constantly whines and complains about all the things that are wrong out there that are oppressing him. So he's involved in the exact same social justice warrior oppression Olympics that he's always bitching about. He blames all his problems on everyone else. It's the JQ. It's the Illuminati. It's the women. It's the this. It's the that. It's the blah, 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 blah. All the problems are everywhere else and nothing to do with him. Remember how we talked about what is fat acceptance? It's this stupid conspiracy, which is a real conspiracy, but it's also a bunch of lazy people who want society to change rather than them changing. And they actually want to alter reality because they're unhappy and they're miserable and they're unhealthy. And they think that the reason they feel the way they do is because society is oppressing them by saying that it's unhealthy to be overweight, when in fact it is objectively a fact that it's unhealthy to be overweight. And so a lot of times this is like pangs of conscience, right? They know that gluttony is wrong. but they would rather try to alter all of society to fit their vice than they themselves change. And that is also something that the man-child and the incels and the MGTOWs and all these guys engage in too, where it's all the women's fault because women are the way that women are. So they're actually mad at biology and reality and acting just like the social justice warriors are, but in their own weird way. So man-child men whine and complain and are victims and they play the oppression Olympics just like the social justice warriors. Man-child is lazy. He's a consumer. Marvel, all this. There's no self-discipline. There's no self-control. A lot of men in this domain are gamers, IPA bros. They're super selfish. They're super emotional. They're easily provoked. They have temper tantrums. They have rages, roid rages as well. And they're super insecure. A lot of these guys also who do end up with a woman, they think of or they treat a woman as if she's a new mom. And so they want a woman to be a mom to them rather than the wife or the girlfriend, you see. Okay, I think that's most of what I wanted to get to in my notes for how to RIZZ max, how to have some game, how to have some mystery about you, how to be a bit aloof, how to be a cool guy, how to not be a man-child dorksburg. California Prepper says, this sounds good. I tagged you on Twitter for that clip. Intel Wild, Rob Noer is his name. Okay, well, is he that libertarian guy? I think I've heard of his name. Crypto Crusader 199. Did you watch Father Moses' video? Was it on point? I did not see it. No. From what I can tell, from what I heard Father Deacon and other people saying, wasn't really that controversial. So I do know the background as to why he took it down, but I did not actually ever see the original video. A lot of the drama that goes on, I don't ever actually see it. So people are always asking me about, did you see what somebody said on Twitter? No, I don't. And you know why that is? I never, ever look at the For You. I don't, for one, don't have time for it. And I also know that the For You is there to rile me up. And I am not a person who is worth, my time is not worth being riled up on Twitter. Now, sometimes people do rile me up on Twitter, but that's a thing that I'm trying to not let happen, you see. So like when I go to Twitter, for example, I view Twitter as something that's only about what we do. I am not there to try to change people's minds. I'm not there to read the comments. In fact, 99% of the time, I don't read the comments. Sometimes I see the comments that reply to me. But like, let's say I put up a tweet that got a lot of views. Okay, like, let me see the last one that got quite a few views. Okay, here's one with 20,000 views or impressions and 40 comments. Haven't read the comments. Don't know what anyone said. Don't care. Let's see. Here's one with 22 comments. Didn't read any of the comments. Sometimes I do see people's comments. So I'm not saying that I never do. But I am not over here on this For You, because this is one huge reason people waste all their time and they get agitated, as we pointed out, because the For You is intentionally there to agitate you. They will show you things that they know are the opposite of you or that people are saying to rile you up. And that's literally 100% in the algorithm, and it's admitted. So I am not going to waste my time on that. Theosis5. Will you put your words in Brazilian famous soccer players via lip sync? The Orthodox gospel will be preached in Portuguese. I don't know what that means. I guess you're talking about some kind of app that like makes you speak over people. I mean, I guess that could be kind of funny. I just haven't looked into that. Emperor Palpatine, $5. A lot of Gen Z are reductionistic pessimists. They love to appeal to all this negative data to then define their own worth by statistics and some sort of vulgar determinism. There is no room in their mind for any meritocracy or willpower. It all boils down to, quote, faith. I don't know what you mean by it all boils down to faith. You mean the Orthodox Christian faith, or it all boils down to having faith in willpower? I don't know what that means, but yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I'm doing tonight's discussion is precisely because of all this weird pessimism that people have, black pill, all this kind of stuff. To me, it's a lot of times a cloak for laziness and it's an excuse and a cloak for irresponsibility. That's what I'm trying to say. What's the point? What's the point? Nothing matters. There's no good girls. They're all bad. All right, that's all just like, right? Anyway. All right, thank you guys so much. A lot of fun tonight. If you would, hit like, share. Leave me some comments down below. Theosis says again, what I am at this moment producing videos of Romario and Ronaldo talking JDR apologetics in Portuguese. Sounds like a genius idea. Absolutely. Go for it. Otherwise, everybody have a good night. Oh, and Jamie and I will be on tomorrow night doing our Valentine's stream. And because, as you guys know, this is the year for me to try to focus on love. It's the year of love, where I don't be mean to internet people because everyone is so fragile. And also, I want to truly be a being that actually does love.